Hi friends and welcome. Today we are here for my season 5 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer recap. So I'm not going to be watching an episode right now. I'm kind of just going to be like reminiscing on this season and just, talking about my thoughts on the overarching, story arc. I'm going to be talking about the character arcs, relationships, and, all the good stuff. We're just going to be talking about the season as a whole now that I've actually finished it, which feels crazy. Um, I feel like I immediately need to start this video by saying that season 5 has been my favorite season of Buffy so far. And I don't think I am the kind of person who, has favorite seasons of her favorite shows. I think I'm somebody who just, watches them. And I think that, of course, if they're, earlier seasons that are bad or later seasons that are bad, I'll be like, yeah, of course I like the first part of this show more or the second part of this show more. But I don't think I've ever actively watched a show and been like, oh, so this is my favorite season, this very specific season in the middle of the show. And I mean, I don't know if season 6 and 7 are going to be either better or worse. So maybe season 5 will be dethroned as my favorite season. But I just think it's so interesting that I heard so many people say that and I was like, okay. And I wasn't feeling it at first. I feel like I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Buffy versus Dracula was the best way to start this season. And I only say this because it's my least favorite episode of the entire season. But I think that literally as soon as I got through that, the season just became incredible. And I didn't notice how much I was loving it until I was incredibly into it, and I think that it's definitely had a very big tonal shift, and I think that we already saw that in season 4. I feel like season 4 was very different than seasons 1 and 3. They were clearly trying to set up something, and I feel like it becomes so clear when watching season 5 that season 4 was them testing the waters. I feel like they were just trying things out, right? They were trying to change and make these characters grow up a little, just leave the high school and create a different sort of vibe. And I think they might have struggled with that a little, and then right now watching season 5, it's oh, it worked. They did it. They absolutely did it, because the season was literally flawless. I can be somebody who's a bit nitpicky just because I studied film and I want to work with film, and I feel sometimes what a lot of my professors have said, and I think it's kind of true, is that sometimes that can ruin film for you because you just start obsessing over little things or catching things that you shouldn't be catching or whatever. And this does not happen this Buffy is so impeccable that it just doesn't happen to me, because I feel it was genuinely such a good season. So I just wanted to put that out there. God, this video, I am so stressed right now. I don't know why these wrap up videos give me so much anxiety, but they really do, because I feel it's all the pressure of the world right now to say everything that I want to say, because once I'm done with it, I'm done with season 5 and that's it. But then another part of me knows that if I want to say more things, I could always do I can hop into the specific episode that I'm reminded of something and just do a post Domi thoughts for that episode, which I have been doing in a few. But I'm still stressed, so forgive me for being stressed. Forgive me that this video is probably not going to be as edited as my other ones. Usually I'll go through my discussions and take out the I'll sort of just leave the most interesting parts. I'll take out any moments that I'm silent for a little bit too long. But with this one, just because for the sake of time, because I have a feeling that this is going to be a little bit of a larger video, I'm not going to go through the entire video editing. I'm kind of just going to leave it as it is. And, if I have to, edit any, major breaks, then I will. But in general, I wanted this to be a little bit more low-key. We're kind of just talking to each other, right? Which I think we kind of are. Even though nobody's talking back to me, I wanted this to be, a low-key, just discussing and talking, having feelings, I guess, about season 5. So I have, a bunch of notes, which is, I guess, okay. And so I feel the order that I want to go on is just talking about season 5 as a whole, and then I'm going to go into character arcs, and then I want to go into relationships. And by relationships, I don't necessarily mean romantic relationships. I mean just relationships. And then I think I'm going to go into my season 6 predictions at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. The reality is most people probably won't, so I'm just going to leave a timestamp just so that you guys know exactly where you can go to watch the season 6 predictions. I'll try and leave it over here, like a little overlay or whatever, and I'll also put it on the description so that it is more easily found if my video is like into chapters. Yes, I think that's more or less what we're covering. I'm also anxious because like you guys know what you're signing up for right now because you probably saw the length of the video when you clicked on it. I do not, because I'm just sitting down here and I'm just gonna talk until I don't have anything to say anymore, or until my voice gives out on me. And I don't know if this is going to be like one of my longer videos or if it's actually going to be very short, because I feel like in some ways I have already talked about season 5 so much. I mean, my season 5 finale reaction was literally 2.5 hours. So I'm like, there's not possibly anything else that I want to say about this or that I have to say about this. But then at the same time, I was rewatching that yesterday and I was like, well, maybe actually I do. So I don't know if this is going to be like, because I'm definitely going to try and like not repeat stuff that I've already seen. That's just boring. Everything that I want to say here is mostly like either new thoughts that I had or just like things about the overarching arc that like I can only see now that like I've finished the season. So, pretty much I have no idea if this is going to be a long video or like a short video. I guess we're gonna find out how much I have to say as I am like saying it. So, oh my god. I mean, I kind of just want to go off this point that I was talking about of just like rewatching the season. This has never happened to me. And maybe this just has to do with the fact that I've never reacted to another show, but the like urge to rewatch other episodes before going into like the new ones is not something I've ever experienced. That with season 5, I feel like each one of these episodes was so rich and so incredible that when I got to like the end of season 5, I couldn't help it. Like I had to rewatch the episodes that I had just seen because I felt like one watch was like not enough. There was so much that I felt like I was missing. There was so much that I felt like I needed to process and that I had to like watch it again. And it's so interesting because I think that the episode that started all of this was The Body, which I think is an episode that most people gravitates towards like not rewatching. But for me, other than Family, that is my most rewatched episode because I think that like I saw it once and then I think I already rewatched it twice. And I'm not gonna lie, I still think about rewatching that episode a lot, but I try not to because I know that like it's very sad that there's like something so cathartic about it that I love. And it's so interesting that like I'm not gonna say I have no issues or no problems rewatching The Body, and I'm not gonna say that I like it either, but there's a part of me that just like wants to do it. Meanwhile, the only episodes of Buffy season 5 that I had not rewatched were actually the 3-episode arc from, I think it's like 508 to 510, right? When Joyce gets sick. For some reason, while I was okay, not really super okay, but while I was kind of okay with rewatching The Body, for some reason, those Joyce being sick episodes really like, I did not want to go there. For some reason, those were the last episodes that I had. And I wanted to be able to rewatch them just because I felt like it was going to be fun to like be able to come here having rewatched the season in its entirety. So I actually sat myself and actually saw them over the last week. I saw all those episodes and it was incredibly hard to watch when you know what's coming. In some ways it's I don't think it's almost worse because for the first time I actually genuinely thought she was going to die, but then at the same time she did die. So it's like, it was just hard. Those were hard episodes to watch. And then I finally finished my rewatch yesterday when I rewatched the season 5 finale for the first time in, I think it's been over a month, like 40 days maybe since I watched the season 5 finale. It's been a little while, but maybe even more, like a month and a half. I felt like I had to rip off the Band-Aid and watch it. It was an experience. It definitely didn't make me as emotional as my first time watching. I think a lot of that was like the shock. And I think that like now I'm, because it's been so long and I've had so long to think about it, I think the shock is a little bit gone. And now for me, it's just kind of sad and a little bit like anxiety inducing. Like I'm definitely curious for season 6 and to see how they're going to follow up with that. But overall, I just wanted to say, I thought I dealt with it a lot better. I know that people have been a little bit concerned with like how hard the season is hitting me. Well, I will have you know that I think I handled the season 5 finale rewatch better than I thought I was going to. Okay. I feel like I should actually head on to my notes so that I can know sort of like where do we want to start? Okay, I know where we want to start. I want to start from the very beginning. Buffy versus Dracula. I just don't think that was my favorite episode of the season. And by this, I'm saying I think this was actually my least favorite episode of the season. And while I said that there are not many things that I would change about this season, I think there might actually just be one. Two. I would have, number one is I would have Tara in every single episode. I don't think it's okay that they skipped her for a couple of episodes. Other than that, I think the only thing that I would like maybe change about this season if I would have done it is that I don't think Buffy versus Dracula worked for me personally. I don't know what it was about it. Maybe it was like a combination of things of like I love the season premieres. I think that Buffy is a really strong show in that sense. Like, of course, Welcome to the Hellmouth is like the perfect pilot episode. It sets up everything that you need to know. I think that When She Was Bad was the perfect follow up to season one. I think it like perfectly talked about all of Buffy's struggles through that season. You know, like I think it did such a good like recap of like not forgetting where she was, like what had just happened, all her post-traumatic stress. You know, I think that was like the perfect follow-up. I really genuinely enjoyed that episode. You know, Anne, I haven't rewatched Anne in a really long time. I think it's probably been at least maybe almost 2 years already. Like it's been a while. So while I don't remember the exact details of Anne, I do remember it was an episode that I quite enjoyed and that I felt like really tied into, you know, like I guess just recapping season two a little bit, you know, like finishing up that storyline. I remember I really enjoyed it. And then of course I think The Freshman is a super strong episode because it's literally Welcome to the Hellmouth 2.0, where we are just sort of getting to establish this new Buffy reality and sort of like having to go on from that. So this is why when I got to 501 I was like, okay, let's go. And then I feel like, especially considering how it started, I think it started off so strong. Like the fact that she's fighting Dracula, I was like mind blown. This is going to be the best episode ever. And then for some reason, I just don't think it reached that point to me. And I think this is something very personal because I've definitely talked to people who literally ranked this as one of their favorite episodes in season 5. And I think maybe it just might have something to do with the fact that I read Dracula so long ago that maybe like I personally wasn't getting the small details that they were nodding in like to in the story. But overall, it just felt very disconnected from everything else. Like it felt extremely Monster of the Week. Whereas I feel like all of the other episodes we had this season, even if they were Monster of the Week, I don't think they were. I think they were like progressing the story and the character arcs in a way that I'm not sure Dracula did. Plus, this just gave Riley a reason to like blame Buffy for something that she didn't even do when he keeps bringing up the fact that Dracula bit her or whatever. So I feel like the idea was amazing. The execution for some reason didn't hit it for me. So now I've been able to get through like my one criticism of the season. So I feel relieved to have gotten that out there. Because overall, I feel like all the rest is just pretty much going to be praise, except for Riley. I might be shit-talking Riley a bit, but that's just because for some reason he gets more annoying the more that I watch. But overall, I think that's it. I always try and be very honest with you guys, so I'm sorry if this came off as harsh, but for some reason, this is what I think of when I think of the beginning of season 5, and it's, it's just that. So anyways, I want to talk about the settings. I feel like season 5 has been very, like I said, well, maybe I should go into like the tonal shift first, because I think I started talking about that. I think that like, while season 4 attempted to change the tone, and I think they definitely started to change the Buffy tone, I think season 5 completely changed the tone of Buffy at like in general. And I think that started like earlier on in the season. I think that there were like two different tonal shifts. I think that like from 501 it already felt very different. I think that like Dawn being into the dynamic, I don't know if it was that, but I do feel like they all felt a lot more grown up, and maybe that's just because they had a younger person in the cast now, so it did automatically make these people seem like they were a little bit more responsible, a little bit, in general. I feel like Dawn just brought that out of them. So maybe that was a little bit of the shift that happened in the beginning of the season. And then of course, I think that the ending of 515, it shifts everything. I think that it brings out this idea of like, yes, we can. Obama. You know what I mean? I think that like so much of television writing is like teasing things that you can't actually go through because they would be too big and too major. And I think that that episode for me was them saying, "You thought we wouldn't do this. You're wrong." So I think that like from that episode onwards, the show completely shifted, at least for me, because they really came out with this idea that everything is possible, nothing is off the table. And I think that like the finale perfectly expresses that. The fact that they would kill Buffy, like you can't get more like insane than that, you know? And so I think that like it was the perfect build up for that, everything that happened. And I think that it just brought like an idea of like realism to the story. I think that losing Joyce was really probably the most devastating thing we've seen on the Buffyverse. And yes, I am thinking about Jenny's, and I still think Joyce's death was harder than that, even if I do love Jenny. And I think that like a big part of why Joyce's death hits, at least me personally, I think is not so much about the character, even though I definitely do like Joyce now. I think that there was a point of season 1 that if she died, I'd be like, good riddance, goodbye. But like I definitely grew to love her. I felt like her addition to season 5 I was really enjoying, because it was bringing out so much of a family aspect that I was really enjoying. And so I was growing to like Joyce more. Wouldn't say she's one of my favorite characters, but I was definitely attached to her character a lot more than I was before. But I don't think that that's what hit me with her death. I think what hit me about her death was having to see everybody around her cope with it. I think that it was the like, I hate to say it, but I think it was like the perfect death, in the sense that like it's the death that would wreck Buffy the most, that would change her life the most. I think it's like a death that would affect people like Willow and Xander, who have known Joyce for so long, and to see a parent of a friend pass away is something that's actually very, very hard, you know, because you know that you can't do much for them. But it's also somebody that you know and that you've talked to. And, you know, it was just the perfect excuse to have Anya cope with those feelings. It was the perfect way to have Tara bond with Buffy over this pain. Like, they picked the right character, as horrible as it is. God, now I'm like really sad actually thinking about this. But what I was trying to say is that I think everything changed then. I think Buffy became a sadder show. And I mean, I've always like heard people say that like, oh yeah, Buffy like super sad. And I was like, I know, I've seen Passion, like I know. And then now that I watched those, I was like, oh, so they mean sad as in like devastating, life-wrecking sad. Noted. So I do think that like this shift that has happened after Joyce died, I don't think this is something that we ever recover from. I think the show changed. I think it's not specifically about Joyce's death. It's not like I think that we're going to stay there forever. I think Buffy's definitely going to, you know, get past her grief. But I do think that in general, I think we now have a bit of a sadder, not just character Buffy, but I think show Buffy. And even if they aren't specifically doing sad things, I think the mood has just switched, you know. And I think of like the later end of season 5, all the episodes that came after Joyce, you know, I think that they were, I mean, other than like intervention, you know, I'd say that the last 4 episodes of the season were very emotional, very heavy, and, you know, not exactly upbeat uh episodes, you know, like feel good episodes. I think that they were like super rich, incredibly well written, and amazing episodes, but I wouldn't say they were like happy. So a part of me is a little bit worried, because I feel like just based off what I'm seeing, it kind of feels like we've made the switch and we're never gonna go back, except for maybe like a few episodes here and there, but you know what I mean? I'm curious to see how this tonal shift is going to affect season 6, if they're going to actually stick through with it like I think they will, or if they're going to be able to like solve everything. I think that the reason that this makes me feel this way is because season 5 didn't end in a good note. I think if season 5 had ended in a way that was like, I don't know, like if it had ended in a lighter way of like having resolved all the conflicts that were set up in season 5, I think I would have been like, okay, great, we have a fresh start for season 6. Except I don't feel like we do. I think that like season 6 is going to have to unpack everything that just happened in the finale. And so I know that that can't be like upbeat and happy. And so I like, you know what I mean? Like I can't imagine Xander and Anya doing like wedding shopping, for example, like planning their wedding when Buffy is literally dead. And then there's also like the hard reality of like, okay, even when we do eventually get Buffy, which I know we have to, isn't it gonna feel like awkward? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're gonna get Buffy back and they'll be like, okay, great, we can go into wedding planning now. Good to see you, Buffy. Like, I think all of them are going to be so traumatized, and this is why I don't know if we're going to go back to like a happier side in season 6. But we will see. We will see. I mean, also I might be slightly biased because people were being like, "Are you sure you want to watch this, Domi? Considering, you know, how you're handling season 5." I do want to watch this, just putting that out there. But in general, I think that like the biggest shift for me in season 5 is that, I don't know about you guys, but to me, I feel like the theme of the entire season was family. I think that like perfectly captures all of it, and I don't just say that because it's my favorite episode of the season, but I think there's a reason. I think that like this whole idea of a found family, you know, that they incorporated for Tara and for the squad, I think kind of also applies to Dawn, when I think that even though we know that she's not like literally Buffy's sister, I think we really, it's like we took her in as part of the family, and I'm so surprised that they were able to do that, you know, because I knew that they were going to have to introduce a new character in this season. That just kind of feels like that's how things roll, you know, beginning of a new season, introduction of a new character. I didn't expect it to be Buffy's younger sister, who is a key. That's not what I would have expected, but I wouldn't think that I would care about her, especially like knowing the truth. You know, I figured that like once we knew that she wasn't Buffy's sister, that like everything was going to change. And the fact that it didn't, I just think that's really amazing. You know, seeing how Buffy was treating her the exact same way, seeing how to Buffy, even if she does know the truth, she still considers Dawn her sister, I think it's just so sweet. I honestly, like, this season has just been my love for Buffy growing and growing and growing. Like, that is it. I couldn't describe it any other way. So I do think that like having this family focus to me felt like we were going away from vampires for a little bit. I think that like, sure, it's a vampire show and you can definitely still see it because they're always fighting, you know, people. But I think that like the fact that the big bad, like the purpose of the big bad was not to destroy the world, it was to destroy the the person closest to Buffy, I think made it more personal, made it more like, I don't want to say relatable, but maybe I do. You know what I mean? It just felt a little bit more real in that way of like, maybe we're not fighting vampires. Maybe we're just fighting somebody who wants to attack people that Buffy cares about, which I know kind of is the case for each big bad, but I feel like all the big bads have this like, I want to end the world. And for Glory, it was a little bit more of like, no, I just want this child. And of course she like will end the world, but like she just wanted Dawn. So I don't know why, because I mean, we still had a lot of like monsters of the week, we still had a big bad, but this season felt a lot less vampire-y for me and a lot more like real. And I think maybe that's just because we were dealing with the concepts of like grief and stuff like that, and family, and having to cope with all of that. I think that like Joyce's illness was, even though obviously she only died towards the end of the season, this is something that we had been talking about sort of like since the beginning of the season, I would say. And I think that like that thread of like having a sick parent, I think grounded the whole story to me and a little bit of a reality. And the fact that that was not like connected to anything mystical, I think that's what really makes the season to me feel a lot more like a non-vampire-y show than the other ones. And I'm interested to see if people are going to agree with me in that regard. Okay, I kind of want to talk a little bit about Glory. I mean, we have to talk about Glory. I think she was the perfect big bad. Like, everything about her, and I want to give a special emphasis to her little minions. I think it's so hard because I don't want to say that they were my favorite part about Glory, but they almost really might be. Like, I was rewatching, I think it was actually in 510 that I was rewatching, and that, like, Glory throws a shoe on them, and they say, ow, thank you. And I was like, I had to stop and laugh about that for, like, a solid 5 minutes. Like, everything about these minions was perfect. Like, I love them. Their humor, hilarious. The way that they talked to her, the way that they called her, they elevated Glory to a whole other level. I don't think Glory would have been the same without her minions. So I just needed to say that first. Those minions, my favorite thing ever. Honestly, love them to death. I think I'm gonna miss seeing how they're gonna call Glory so much. But in general, Glory, I mean, she was so badass. The fact that we're fighting a god, I mean, come on. It can't get any cooler than that. Like, they really raised the stakes with that one. The fact that she's so damn old that, like, she predates the written word, like, oh my god, ma'am, like, that's cool. Like, I think she knows how cool she is, you know? And I think there was just something so, like, effortless about her, where, like, you knew that she wasn't really, like, trying as hard as Buffy was trying, you know? I mean, of course, she was, like, determined to find the key, but I mean that, like, she wasn't actively, like, you know, practicing to make herself stronger like Buffy. She just kind of was the badass that she is. So, oh my god, what is there to say about Glory other than I genuinely think she was amazing. I think she had a very clear purpose that I think, like, made sense. You know, her purpose was not about, like, destroying the world for no reason. She really just sort of wanted to get back home, and I think that made her feel a lot more, like, real to me. Because, you know, sometimes when the monsters, and I don't mean just Buffy, but, like, in general, you know, their whole plan is to destroy the world. I'm like, okay, you know, but her plan felt a little bit more different. It felt a little bit more like she actually had somewhere to be, something that she wanted to do. And I think it made me take her more seriously because it wasn't just about destroying the world. It was about accomplishing something that she had been trying to accomplish for a while, and something that people had been actively trying to make her not accomplish. And just the fact that they would tie in the season 5 big bad to Buffy so directly in the form of Dawn, I think is, like, so interesting, because they could have made anybody the key. You know, it didn't have to be somebody that Buffy knew. And so the fact that they really, like, I just think that's so great. Like, I would have never thought of this, you know what I mean, to make such a strong connection that works so well. But I love it. And I think that, like, the pacing of the season in regards to Glory, I think, really worked, because I think what bothered me a little bit about season 4, and I really enjoyed season 4, which I don't think was the case for a lot of people who said it was, like, one of their least favorites. It might have been one of my favorite seasons so far, but I think what bothered me about it was the pacing of, like, Adam's storyline. I feel like not just did we defeat him too quickly in episode 521, but also, like, I feel like his storyline just, like, showed up a little bit too late and then was resolved a little bit too quickly. I feel like with Glory, we set her up in the beginning of the season in a way that, like, we knew that maybe she was important. You know, she came back relatively soon. So I feel like they were really doing her very well in that way of, like, you know, giving a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, until we finally, you know, got to actually meet her as the big bad. Like, it's so interesting that Giles and the squad get to meet Glory without even knowing that it's Glory, you know, like, while they're researching Glory. Everything about it I thought was so creative and interesting, and I like that we sort of, it's not somebody who you're, like, dreading their encounter. I feel like Buffy and Glory did have a few encounters, and so I think it was interesting because every single time we saw Buffy sort of get her ass kicked a little, but she still somehow made it, you know, which kind of makes me feel like I want to talk about, like, the ending of the season, just in the sense of Buffy spent the entire season saying that we were not going to beat Glory, that we were just, you know, that we were kind of doomed to lose. I trusted her because I trust Buffy, and what she says to me is a truth. But then at the end of the season, it kind of does feel like we did beat Glory and that we did win. But at what cost, ma'am? It's not a good one. I feel like that was just kind of haunting me a little, because I was thinking, like, did we win? Because in some ways it feels like we did, because, like, I guess we did defeat Glory, but in other ways I was like, I can understand why Buffy wouldn't necessarily consider this a win, because, you know, she's died. She did. So I don't know, there was just something interesting about that, because I was feeling like the season 5 finale had to have a big twist in that sense. And I really was thinking that we were going to keep Glory for longer, that in some way they weren't going to be able to defeat her. But it kind of feels like they were able to. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's not like 100% convinced. And I only say this because I thought it was so interesting that Buffy would like let her go with a warning. I was like, really? Buffandra? Like, you would kill Riley's mistress vampire lady, but you wouldn't kill the woman who was terrorizing your sister. But I feel like that was probably just like a way to make Giles seem a little bit darker. And I'm excited to like discuss this in whenever I go into like the actual character arcs. I want to talk about Giles because that was something that I still have not forgotten. But anyways, I like, there's just something about it. I feel like I didn't see her as dead as I wanted her to see. Her slash Ben. I mean, we got to talk about Ben. It was so interesting because I wasn't thinking that we were going to have this sort of twist. I feel like what we have seen in the show is that they do have a little bit of a pattern of like making good characters into, it doesn't have to be bad characters, but somebody who like deceives you, like Angel becoming Angelus, Faith, turning her back, Riley being a part of the initiative, and then now it would be Ben being Glory. Clearly they have this whole pattern of like making characters that you trust really betray Buffy in a major way. But for some reason, I felt season 5 just felt so different to me that I was like, I'm not sure that they would be going down this route. I think maybe like Glory is the big bad and like she just is the big bad, and I thought maybe Dawn was like the betrayal, but it didn't necessarily have to be a betrayal. It just felt like a connection. That's all that I needed, even though I thought Dawn was evil for a while, but I think I'm over that now. I don't think I am, but anyways, I think that like the Ben twist of it all, I mean, it's so interesting. I love the like small details that are put into it, like the fact that they don't remember, things like that. I think that like it really, really works because like it there's like such a dramatic irony with us finding out before the squad does. I feel like usually, I'm trying to think, but I feel like usually we kind of find out things more or less at the same time that Buffy finds out things. But I think that because we saw so much of Glory, I'm trying to remember, have we seen this much of the big bads before, like from their perspective? And I think that like we have, because I definitely remember scenes in the initiative. I definitely remember Angel and Spike in their talks, and I remember Faith and the mayor. But for some reason, Glory just feels kind of different. I feel like all of her scenes, like, I don't know, give me so much insight on her. Maybe they were a little bit more than the other seasons, or at least it feels that way to me. So I just think that's why, like, the Ben storyline really, really works. The dramatic irony of knowing that this is going to bite Buffy in the ass, but not being able to, like, actually go there and tell her because, she's a fictional character in a TV show. But anyways, I do want to make a little bit more of like some comparisons with season 4, just in the sense that I felt like season 4 had more highs and lows than season 3. I felt like season 3 was more consistent than season 4. And I think that season 5 was even more consistent than season 3. Like, I think that like I said, other than Buffy versus Dracula, I feel like it was kind of an impeccable run. The only other episode that I don't super vibe with is a 510. I think that's the episode where Riley leaves, right? Just because it was a little bit too Riley centric. But I don't think I had such a problem with that episode while I was watching it. I think that while I was watching it, I was kind of just like digging the vibes, and I was like feeling the angst, and I love me some angst. So I was like kind of into it. But as I rewatched, maybe it's because I got so done with Riley that I was just like, leave, please, get on that freaking helicopter. Bye. So maybe that other episode, but in general, I feel like it just consistently kept getting better, and there wasn't like, the random Go Fish episode in the middle of the season or anything like that. And I do think that they fixed a little bit of like the problems that I want to say they were bringing up in the season 4 finale, of the fact that like the squad was drifting away, I think was like a big thing that we were talking about. And I think that they definitely, to me, it felt like that was definitely fixed. I felt like the squad was close. I'm excited to talk about this like in the relationship part of my discussion, but just in general, I feel like we really saw them being able to rely on each other, like every single one of them. I think they all were helping each other, and I'd say maybe, yeah, and that's why kind of maybe I'm glad that Riley's gone, because it doesn't feel like he fit into that dynamic the same way as everybody else. But in general, I definitely feel like I could sense their stronger connection, and I could like I also enjoyed the fact that like even though season 5 felt like so fresh and new, I like that they were bringing back some old settings, and I think of like Buffy's house and the Bronze being like the two biggest ones, like because I'm thinking we saw the Bronze in like Family, we saw the Bronze in Fool for Love. You know, Buffy's house obviously became a huge setting this season because of Joyce. And I think that this is something that we had sort of gone away from in season 4 because we were so focused on UC Sunnydale, that Buffy moving back in, which I think is something huge, you know, and it kind of like, it's so interesting because it's so new, but at the same time, I feel like this makes it feel so old, like so like season 1 of Buffy, like we're going back to our roots, we're going back to Joyce, you know, who I think was like a big character in season 1 because, you know, like she's Buffy's mom, she has a lot of control over Buffy, and I think that season 5, you know, bringing her back, I think really worked. I think maybe this was the relationship that I was so happy that was also fixed. Kind of killed me when Joyce told like Buffy, fake Buffy, that she didn't really come and visit. I was like, Buffandra. Ugh. And so I'm so glad that like Buffy really stepped up when she had to, you know, even though it was like the whole storyline with her leaving school is really, really upsetting to me. Like, I love how much Buffy can just like stand up for the people that she loves, like how she did for Joyce by moving back at home, and now how she's doing for Dawn by like dropping out of school to take care of her. But at the same time, I just want to tell her that like it's okay to focus on herself too. And so that part of the storyline I'm a little bit upset about because I really don't want Buffy to leave school, but at the same time she's dead, so how would she be studying right now? I don't know. But just in general, I am definitely surprised that we didn't see much of the university in this season, because I feel like it was such a big part of the last season. I understood that it wasn't as big as the high school. It definitely felt like it was a little bit more of like a background character, whereas I feel like Sunnydale High was a main character in the show. But I still thought we were gonna see it quite a bit, and I don't think we did. I feel like it was barely in the season. Like that was not where we were. And I think this again just adds on to like the whole idea that I was talking about this season feeling so real and feeling so life. I think it was less about Buffy like studying or killing vampires, and I think it was more about just like Buffy learning how to live her life, and like having to deal with growing up like for reals. And I think that grief is the best worst way to learn that, I guess. Definitely the worst, but also like nothing would ever make her grow as much as like what she just went through right now, I would say. And talking about settings, we have to talk about the magic box. I mean, I could not think of a better new setting to add to the show. Like, genuinely, could not come up with something better than this. I think it's perfect. It's like, it's the perfect way to not just like get a new setting that like works for us and gives us like privacy, but also it gives Giles a purpose. It gives Anya a purpose, you know? Like, I was so desperate for these characters to feel like they had something like else so that they wouldn't, you know, I'm happy to have people like broaden their horizons and not just be doing one thing, because if they're doing one thing, that's what I always think is that like when you can't do that thing, then your whole life is ruined. So, you know, Giles just being Buffy's watcher, it puts too much pressure on him, but if he's running a shop, you know, it's all about the balance. So I think that the magic shop was amazing. I am literally obsessed. I think it's like the perfect setting. It's so like cozy. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. It feels like a place that I would want to go. It feels like they're all feeling so comfortable and safe there, and like, you know, I like that he made the adjustments to like have a place where Buffy can train there. You know, they have all the space in the world to do their research, they can talk about things, and then I don't know, it felt like such a safe space for them. And you know, not that I didn't love Giles's apartment, but I mean, I think I was missing having something like the library. I think that the library, like, I want to go back to the word cozy. The library just felt like that place for me. It felt like such a safe place, and that it was very sad when it was destroyed. Oh, I hope they don't destroy the magic box. I'm going to be bummed out. But I think that, like, this definitely feels like the library 2.0. I think that they might have tried to do that a little bit with Jos's apartment, but I think it didn't feel super right because like it was Jos's apartment and not like his workplace. So, I feel like whenever you start crossing those boundaries, it's like, okay, but like you're always going to be like imposing if you're on somebody else's house. Whereas the magic box, they can stay there whenever they want because it's just like the magic box. And like, Joss doesn't have to like be there all the time. Like, I don't know. The perfect setting, honestly, the perfect setting. Tied into everything perfectly. I love that it also like helps them have all the resources that they need. Like they have all the little things that they might need for spells and like the books and stuff like that. Like I love that it's all in one place. I think the magic box was probably one of the best things that they decided to do this season, and I love it. That's it. I love it. I also want to talk a little bit about like the connections and crossovers in between Buffy and Angel. Because I think they were less, right? And I think that makes sense though. I think in season 4 of Buffy and season 1 of Angel, because they are setting up Angel as a new show, I think it makes sense that they would need to be doing a little bit more crossovers because like you want to make sure that the Buffy audience goes to Angel. I think that now they kind of understood that like whoever was going to Angel has already gone to Angel. And so I think they like kind of stopped pushing that agenda a little bit, because I think that there were definitely less crossovers here. I feel like not just crossovers, but also like parallels. I feel like when I was watching season 4 and season 1, I definitely felt like so many episodes of Buffy and Angel were like mirroring each other, and I saw so many parallels and connections. I think season 4, season 5 and season 2 felt like two very, very different seasons, and the only like crossover, and I could be totally wrong in forgetting. Oh yeah, I mean they did the brilliant crossover of Fool for Love and Darla, which genuinely mind blowing. Like yes, like the connecting through flashbacks is perfect because it wouldn't make sense to like connect these storylines in the real life at that given point. And so the fact that they still found a way to make that work, brilliant, like absolutely, like outstanding. I want to clap to whoever came up with that. Genuine, like just genius. And then the other parallel, other than the season 2 of Angel finale, which I don't want to talk about because that kind of makes me very sad. But I do think that was a great connection. Just also Forever comes to mind, and having Angel come back. I mean, see, it's so great because I know that like just like how I said, it doesn't feel like they're pushing Angel. That was like the perfect moment for him to come in. It was that perfect moment where like I feel like we hadn't had too many crossovers, so I wasn't expecting him to be there because I kind of thought we were like a little bit done with that. And then seeing him is just like the best instant gratification for that scene, and just like that like it felt like the perfect moment to have him there. It felt super in character. I do think it would be weird if we didn't see Angel. I think I would be a little bit upset about him that he was just like not going to check in on Buffy. Like it made sense with the characters, it made sense with the storyline. It was the perfect crossover. So while I feel like I do miss seeing the Buffy and Angel characters interact with each other, even though they did set up something different this season with like phone calls, having Willow call Cordelia. I mean, my favorite duo, of course. I do think that they were doing something different and that we still had some connections here and there. To me, it still felt like a different kind of crossovers than the previous season. But I liked it because it felt like they weren't pushing any crossovers. They were just done when they had to be done. And now I just have to talk about Forever for a moment because I do think that like I strongly believe that Forever is the most underrated episode in all of season 5. And I think I will die on this hill. Like, I will defend it to my dying breath. I think that after an episode like The Body, how do you follow that? I really genuinely do not think that you can. It's such a hard episode. And the writing of that episode is literally impeccable. Like, I would not change one word. Not one letter. And so whenever you have something like this good, it's like, how do you follow? So I was definitely like worried because I was like, okay, they just put me through like the worst 40 minutes of my life. How are they going to be able to continue making this show watchable? Because we wouldn't be able to keep watching Buffy if every episode was just like The Body, like they went really, really dark and sad for an episode. And of course they had to like make it a little bit less sad, but I also didn't want them to go like fully, oh, like we're not even talking about Joyce yet. Like that was the last episode, like they had to still talk about it while also not making it devastating. That's such a hard line to balance, especially when you're also doing a funeral. But oh my god, if I like, I genuinely cannot praise that episode enough. I think it did it perfectly, because we were talking about Joyce, we had teary-eyed moments, but also we were dealing with, like, I want to say a monster of the week, the monster being Dawn trying to like raise, fake Joyce or whatever. Like it was just perfect because it was like, it was so real. Like, of course that in a show where the supernatural exists, somebody would be going after the supernatural to undo the shit that has been done, just like how I think they're going to be doing with Buffy right now in season 6. And so, like, everything about it just felt so true to me and really, really resonated with me. And so I wish that Forever was given more love than it is, because I feel like I didn't see people talking about that episode that much, and I really, really, really genuinely think it was one of my favorite ones, and definitely the most underrated one of the whole season. um I think it's perfect, just saying. I mean, they gave me Bangel, I can't complain. But I also think that this also comes up in like the end of the season, where like I think it was probably on 519, everything seemed so big and so huge and so doomed that I was like, holy shit, like we have peaked, like we can't get any worse. And I don't mean worse in like a bad way, I mean worse as in like the stakes of this season were insane. And so I felt like we couldn't get any more like dramatic than what we were in 519. And so I felt like it was just gonna have to come down, right? Because at a certain point, like, you have to reach a like peak. And I thought that that peak was 519 while I was watching it, and then like no, it just like it kept getting bigger, it kept getting like, I really don't want to use the word worse because it makes it seem like I'm using it in a bad connotation, but I just mean worse as in like things just kept getting worse for Buffy, and it all seemed even worse, you know what I mean? And so it just like it kept growing on 519, on 520, on 521, on 522. Like you really just like completely kept raising the stakes each time more, which I think is insane to be able to do that. And this is why I think that like the writing in season 5 is my favorite one of the whole show. I don't know how they did all that they did, but honestly, props to them for doing all of that. I do think that they kept following up the episodes with even better ones in moments that I didn't think that they could, you know. So just amazing. I mean, now I'm just thinking about 520. 521. Actually, that is a really, I think this might have been another one of my favorite episodes of the season, and it's so hard to pick because I think all of them are so good. But there's just something so moving to me about having a character go through a mental breakdown. I don't think it's something that we see a lot. I don't think we talk a lot about, like, and maybe people are going to be laughing at me for making these connections, but I don't think that we talk a lot about mental health in TV. And to me, Buffy having a mental breakdown, I think is just like, I think it's a way of talking about that. I think that, like, she felt so overwhelmed and so desperate that her brain just shut down. Like, she shut down, and that happens, and I just felt so heartbroken for her, because I don't think we have ever seen Buffy freeze the way that she did this season. I think Buffy has always been to one to, like, fight the things head on and stuff like that. Even in moments where I just want to tell her, Buffy, run away, Buffy has always been the one to, like, actually go for it. She doesn't feel like she's scared of anything. I think this was the first season that we saw her genuinely being scared. And I think so much of it was that, like, she felt like she was never going to win. I think that losing Joyce and knowing what grief is like made the stakes even higher for her because she knew that she could never go through this again. So it was kind of really, really sad to see her freeze, to see her sort of like lose for the first time in her life, and to see her actively wants to run away, and that's still not working. So I think that, like, her mental breakdown, to me, makes perfect sense, and I think it was like also an amazing way to have Willow step up. But I'm gonna leave that for like the Willow discussion of things. But overall, I just also had to praise that episode. There's so many episodes this season that I feel like I could spend an entire lifetime talking about because I think they were so brilliant. And I have to say that maybe these three are a few of my few of my favorite things. That felt bad. But anyways, I think this season built up the tensions and the emotions unlike any other season had been able to do. And I think that season 4 had already teased towards that because I think that a large part of my season 4 discussion was me saying that like I had never felt the emotions on like while watching Buffy. I feel like season 4 had brought out emotions on me that I hadn't felt with that amount of like passion. That was completely unironic, but I'm not gonna lie. Yes, passion was on my mind when I was talking about emotions because I was like, I did feel emotions on season 2, episode 17. But anyways, what I mean is that like I think because I had been attached to these characters for longer, I think season 4 was able to bring out feelings that I hadn't necessarily felt in the previous seasons before. I think like it just, more attached to the characters, everything feels bigger, feels more exciting. And I don't mean like feelings as in like bad things, but I just mean like excitement, like genuine excitement. Seeing Faith in 415 was one of the best moments of my life. I was just so excited. That felt dramatic, but you know what, probably kind of true. But you know what I mean, like you need to really be able to connect with these characters to be able to like feel emotions as strongly as this show can make you feel. And so I feel like in season 4 they were kind of already teasing with that in a couple of ways. And I also just think about Tillo and all the emotions that they made me feel. And then I think that they kind of went on like a complete turn here because while season 4 I think brought out feelings of like excitement and happiness on me, I think this season was like trying to test the opposite and being like, okay, so how hard can we make Domi cry? The answer is very hard. And so I feel like, it's just the same way that season 4, those emotions, those attachments to Faith, to Tillo, and stuff like that wouldn't have been able to work so well if we weren't attached to characters like, um, what's her name? Willow. And, like Faith and stuff like that. Like, I think this season only works because we've already seen these characters for 4 whole seasons. We already know them so well. We know them so well. We're like attached to them. And I think that's how they're really, really able to raise the stakes by making it so emotional. And like I said, it just works. It works so well. I mean, I was talking about Faith, so naturally I feel like I have to keep talking about Faith and say that God, like I was so wrong with all of my season 5 predictions, and I kind of want to go back. This is the fun part of like having a notebook where I keep all of my notes for every episode, is that I was actually going through my season 4 notes yesterday when I was coming up with my season 5 notes to sort of guide me, and I found my page of like season 5 predictions, and I was actually having a bit of fun reading it. It was very funny. And I'm gonna go into that in a minute. Maybe I should tell you guys a little bit of what was written there. But anyways, I want to talk about Faith because I was so certain that Faith was going to be one of the biggest parts of season 5 because I thought that this whole season would be talking about the Slayer essence, Slayer lore, that whole thing. And I was like, well, if we're talking about Slayers, of course Faith has to be here, like duh, Domi, duh. And then when I saw her in 201 of Angel, I was like, knew it, called it, never been so right. Well, turns out I had never been so wrong. Well, actually, I have been even more wrong than this in the past, but like, you know what I mean. I do miss Faith, but this is the hard part about it. I don't think she would have fit into this season, and I get why she was not there. And this is what hurts me the most, is that like I would love to criticize the writers and be like, you should have given me Faith, but like, and I hate to say it, I think they made the right choice because like the show, like the season, it just worked so well without her that I feel like Faith being there was just gonna like bring in things that we didn't need right now. Which is not to say that like she can't still come in season 6 and 7. I'm sure we can still find ways to bring her in, but I just wanted to say that like I was so adamant about that. And I think that like I get why they didn't do it, but I just wanted to put that out there and say that like I really, really genuinely missed Faith. It's been a little bit too long without her, and I think that what this showed me is that I think I was wrong. I thought that like this whole redemption arc was just the beginning of her story, but now I'm actually starting to think that it's the end, which is really upsetting. Like I obviously knew Faith existed, And I assumed that her, going to jail and making amends for everything was going to start a whole new storyline for her that we were going to get a chance to see. But right now, I just don't see how they would bring her back into the show and make this work. So part of me wonders if we've seen the last of Faith in Buffy. I mean, I know that she shows up for an episode in Angel, but like, is this it? Oh god, I don't want to quote Doyle, but are we done? You know what I mean? Like, I'm having a hard time seeing Faith past season 4 right now. Kind of like how I had a hard time imagining how Dawn was going to get past season 5 and how I was having a hard time seeing Riley through season 4. Well, actually, I'm actually reassuring myself because Dawn did make it past season 5 and Riley did make it past season 4. So maybe they will find a way to make Faith work. And it's going to be interesting. But I think that like all the hope that I had for that is kind of gone. And now I think that we really might have explored as much of Faith as the writers are willing to explore. But please know that like I am still holding out so much hope for Miss Faith. And then some other characters that I feel like we should talk about that like I was kind of surprised that we didn't see maybe are Oz. I mean, it's not that I was surprised, but I feel like he made such a fun cameo in, New Moon Rising that I was, I guess, maybe possibly wondering if he was going to be doing a cameo in this season. But I think it makes sense that he didn't. Like, he's fully moved on, and I think that we should let him move on, not just as Oz, but also Seth Green. Thank you so much for your service. I understand. It's your time to go. But it's just interesting to see like which characters, because I feel like Buffy has this thing where like they like to bring back characters that were gone. And yes, I'm 100% talking about Jenny in Amends and Becoming Part 2. You know what I mean? Like they really, I think that they like to do that. And Joyce in 521, right? You know what I mean? And so I think that like it's interesting to see when they're done, because for Jenny, for example, I spent a good part of season 3 wondering, is she still going to show up? Is she still going to show up? She didn't. And so now I understood that, like, we're done with Jenny. And I think with Oz, I think this was, like, my way of knowing that I think we are fully done with Oz. I don't think we're ever going to see him again. And that kind of bums me out a little because I think that he's such a great character. I think that even though I am a huge Tillo shipper, I think that Oz was the perfect love interest for Willow as well. Like when I'm watching New Moon Rising, their speech, their talk in the car honestly makes me tear up because it's just so beautiful. I love their love so much and I really do miss Oz, but I think that like this season has shown to me that like I think he is gone for good. So yeah. And I guess also makes me think of Riley because obviously Riley left this season. Thank God. I want to say thank God. But anyways, I was maybe wondering if he was going to come back. I think that like the moment in Forever where we see somebody's shoes, my thought process was that's Giles, and then I was like, no, maybe that's Riley. I definitely did not think of Angel, especially because he feels like such a distant love interest considering that she had just sort of broken up with Riley. I mean, I think I understand why he didn't come back. I guess he like didn't know or he couldn't come. But I think it speaks a lot to his character. The fact that he would just like leave and like that whole episode bothers me. I don't love it. The ultimatum, just no. But anyways, I think that I was maybe possibly expecting Riley to find out the truth about Joyce and stuff like that and to come back and support Buffy for like a while. I mean, I say that I was expecting it, but I really don't think I was, like, actively predicting it. Like, it's not something like I was like, oh, where's Riley? Because I don't think it would have fit in with the story. But I was wondering if he was going to, like, pop up. And he didn't. And so this makes me wonder if we have seen the last of Riley, too. And whereas with Oz, I'm a little bit upset because I do love him. I'm okay with never seeing Riley again. I'm okay with never thinking about Riley again. I don't know what it is about that man. But the more I rewatch this show and this season, the more I dislike him, and I feel bad for it because I genuinely really shipped them for a while there. Something happened, and it was gone. No more shipping inside of me for them. So, I guess I'm curious to see if they are going to bring Riley back in season 6. But and by back I mean like for an episode or two. But I don't think they will. I think we're done with the Riley storyline, and like I said, I'm cool with that. Somebody else that I expected to see, the Cheese Man. I figured that he would at least, I don't know, like show up in a grocery store. Like, I don't know, but I figured that he probably wasn't going to be the big bad when everybody was laughing their asses off at me while I was watching Restless, and the fact that I like was really into the Cheese Man. But like, listen, I just gotta understand Restless. I got beef with that episode in the sense of like, it's been a whole season. It's been 22 episodes. How can I not understand what's happening? I have no memory, like not memory. I mean, like no understanding, no nothing. That episode, nothing. Which, by the way, the beef that I said I had with Buffy versus Dracula, like I would have liked it possibly if Restless had been the first episode of the season, because even though Restless is not an episode that I can say I understand, it still feels like a big episode, if that makes sense. So in a way, I almost feel like Restless is the first episode of the season, which is why I feel like Buffy versus Dracula was so weird, because I feel like they had just set up so many big things and then they just went to a Monster of the Week like sort of nothing happened, except Dracula knew what happened, kind of, because he was talking about some Restless quotes. So like, what? Anyways, my point is, I do not understand Restless at all. Mr. Cheeseman did not appear. I don't think I have anywhere else to go with this discussion other than the fact that I was thinking that Restless was going to be explained by the season 5 finale, and that sure, maybe I was going to understand a little bit more of it like on the next few seasons, but now feels like Restless was not a setup for season 5 like I thought. Maybe was it a setup for season 6? Was it a setup for season 7? Was it a setup for like the show as a whole? Was it not a setup? Was it just like a prank that they're playing on me? I don't know. But anyways, many much questions about Restless that I wish had been answered but have not been, and it just makes me feel really stupid. So thank you for that, Restless. Still a fun episode. I can give you that. Please don't ask me why. But in my notes, I wrote Lizard plus Cheeseman brothers. And I think what I mean by this, yikes, Domi, is that for some reason I really, like I just, when I saw the Lizard Man on 522 on top of the little, you know, whatever the hell you want to call that, when he was going after Dawn, I was like, oh my god, it's the Cheese Man, and it wasn't. And I don't think they look alike, but there was just something about like their off-putting, creepy-ass vibes that I was like, could these people be related? Because the Lizard Man, you know what? I think I'm gonna stop talking halfway through my sentence. I don't know where this is going, and it sounds so wrong that I don't think I can put myself through listening to whatever my brain is trying to make me think right now. But just in general, I was like, is there a connection there? And for some reason, it's a similar connection that I felt with Tara and Dawn. Do not ask me why, but to me, Tara and Dawn feel like they have some sort of connection. I wish I understood. I think it's something emotional at this point. Just the fact that, like, I don't know what it is, but they feel like connected. I'm gonna move on. I do think it's interesting that they only brought in one new character this season, whereas they brought two in on the previous season, because they had obviously Tara and Riley come in for season 4, and then for this season it was just Dawn, right? And I think that like Tara came in halfway through season 4, so I guess maybe they could have brought in a new character once Riley left, because I mean they had an extra spot in the intro, right? Like, you know what I mean? They could have brought somebody else in. I guess they didn't. And so I feel like it just makes sense though. And I'm going to talk about this in my season 6 predictions. I feel like it's harder to bring in characters right now when we already have such a core group, and when they're not actively going to college. Like, where are they going to meet people right now? I feel like the more you grow up, the harder it is to meet people. So I think it made perfect sense for them to meet people when they were new at the university. And then at this point, we're not even seeing them in class, so how would they be meeting people, you know? But I do have a prediction for how we are going to meet a new character in season 6. So I guess you guys are gonna have to wait for prediction time so that I can say it. But I guess like there's so many things that like I don't think I was actively thinking about, but when I'm like reminiscing on it, I was like, oh, that would have made sense. Like I think it would have made sense if we had somebody come in to sort of like substitute Riley, or like the absence of Riley. But I guess there's no need to find a substitute when nobody misses him and he made no difference. Like there is no absence that was felt by him being gone. So except Buffy. Buffy felt a little bit of absence. I didn't. But anyways, interesting. I'm still so shocked by how they brought in Dawn. I really feel like she was the perfect way to shake up the dynamic, make things different, and I love her as a character and I'm excited to talk about her. But it's so hard to film these videos and to try and like, you know, I try and create this like order just so that like my thoughts are not all over the place, but then it's so hard because sometimes I want to go into stuff and I'm like, no, I have to wait so that I can make it make sense. So anyways, I think I'm almost done with like my overarching thoughts those, because then we can actually go into like character and relationship, and I feel like that's going to be easier to talk about. Maybe we'll see. I'm so sorry, this is a mess, and I'm not sure anybody's watching this right now, but if you are, thanks, I guess. Something else that I feel like we have to talk about, because it is probably the biggest, maybe, overarching theme of the whole season, is the whole idea that was brought up in Fool for Love about the Slayer sort of like death wish. I mean, it's so hard given like the ending, you know, because it like it kind of just makes it feel like Spike was right all along, which I kind of figured that he would, because he said it with so much confidence, and I kind of just trust Spike that when he said it, I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, true, I guess. But I don't know, there's just like, I think it felt like it came up a lot when Buffy was like literally dreaming of killing Dawn on 521, and you know, she said that like she kind of wished that she would just, you know, have it all over so that she didn't have to live in this stress. And I feel like, I don't know, like that whole storyline to me feels very like sad. Again, it reminds me of like what I was talking about just in regards to like mental health, just in the sense of like sometimes life can feel so overwhelming. I always bring like a real life approach to this, and I know that sometimes that's like not what they're aiming to do, but this is how it hits me. I think that sometimes life feels overwhelming and a lot of people feel like it's a little bit too much, and I think that like, you know, Buffy saying that it would probably be easier if she was dead, I think is like, well, also in some ways true, because yeah, she wouldn't have to be dealing with all of this. I think it's also devastatingly sad to know the level of like stress that she's under, and you know, the cost of everything. And so I just think that like the sacrifice in the end, you know, I think what really really gets me about this season is this family love. Like personally, I'm very very close to my family, I would say, you know, and I already mentioned that I do have 2 younger sisters, so I am the eldest. And I think that immediately upon seeing Buffy have a little sister, I was able to connect with her in a way that I hadn't before. And Buffy's always been my favorite character. I think she's amazing. And it felt good to be able to like connect to a character that I love and admire so much, because I don't think I am very much like Buffy. She's like what I wish I was, but I'm definitely not. And so I feel like that was probably the first thing I ever saw that I was like, oh my god, I can totally relate to this character. You know, her love for Dawn, and, you know, how much Dawn can annoy the living shit out of her, but she would still literally die for her. You know, it feels like such, like, the perfect way to describe that sibling love. You know, like, you would really do anything for them. And so I think this is what actually gets me about the ending. I don't think it's so much about no, that's a lie. I was gonna say it's not so much about the concern for Buffy, but it actually kind of is, because I've been incredibly anxious to know how the hell they're gonna like undo this. But I think so much of what like actually hit me and brought me into my feelings was the fact that it was about love. She was willing to sacrifice herself for the love that she feels for this sister. And I think to me, I don't think there are things that are like more beautiful than that, really. And also like not like that part of it hit me, the beautiful sacrifice, but then also knowing that we're still gonna have to deal with the aftermath. You know, that 601, I'm expecting slash hoping it's going to be a forever type of episode of like dealing with the consequences of an unimaginable loss. you know, because we sort of know that Buffy might come back, but these characters don't. They definitely don't. And so I feel like that one's going to be a really hard one to watch. But then I guess just what I was saying is that, the Slayer death wish just feels so, I don't know, like her death being her gift. Her gift is that she can save Dawn. I don't know. It feels kind of sad, so I don't want to talk about it much longer, but it feels so deep, and it feels like I kind of want to rewatch this season even more and maybe, you know, finish the show. I feel like I'll have an even bigger understanding of it, but it all just feels very big and like, I don't want to say like written in the stars, but just sort of like a little bit of a meant to be kind of feeling is what I get from it. But anyways, we're fine and we're not heading into a breakdown right now. So I'm gonna talk about something else. I mean, one of my bullet points is literally just Joss Whedon is going to the bad place, and I think that's very true. I think this was a very, very sad season. To all the people involved, thank you for breaking my heart like a million times. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. No. Um I also made a note about the Watchers Council because it was so, like, I want to say great to see them. Even though I hate them, it was so great to see them and see how different the dynamics are right now and how Buffy was really, really able to be the one in power in this conversation. Even though, like, they were bringing in information, she's still the one with, like, the leverage, I want to say, and she was able to get them to do what she wanted. Like, everything about it, I think, was amazing. Seeing Buffy stand up for Giles, seeing Giles stand up for Buffy, seeing them like create, I want to say, like healthier boundaries with these fucked up people, and still getting to know the truth. I thought it was a great connection. I always figured that they would be coming back to like help us with something big. This felt like something big, and I wonder if they're gonna be coming back again. But we're gonna talk about that in the prediction part of the video. But it was just great to see how different things were from the last time that we saw them, which I think was like the Faith episode, right? Who are you? Yeah, I think so. But anyways, ever since they left, it's cool to see that like they can't just come in and pretend like everything is the same. Like there's clearly some differences there, and I like that they didn't like forget that they didn't immediately try and like make Buffy seem like she was their little puppet like they kind of always did. So amazing to see them in a completely different light of like just holding no power over her. And before we head into like the second part of the video, I guess, I kind of just wanted to talk about my favorite scene in the whole season. Dare I say, and I might dare to do it, my favorite season in the whole show, I think, has to be in 522 when Giles says, like they're all gonna die if they don't kill Dawn, and Buffy says, that the last thing that Dawn will see is her protecting her. Like I said, that kills me, man. And I think if there's one sentence to describe the entirety of the season, it would be that. It would be that moment right there. That like that love that is bigger than anything else that we've ever seen in the show. So kind of just wanted to like praise that scene again. I know that I've already done it, but I wanted you guys to know that yes, I have spent an entire month thinking about this season. I have rewatched it, and this is what really, really sticks to me the most, I would say. Okay, so we should head into a different part. I was actually, before we even head into because the next page of my discussion is heading into character arcs, which is going to be interesting. Because I just noticed that there are so many characters that I haven't even mentioned. Like I haven't even talked about Anya this recap yet, have I? And we're already like an hour in, so there's definitely a lot to be said that I was trying to save. But I wanted to go back, and I'm trying to find it, and I just found it. Go back into my season 5 predictions to just sort of like see if I have like if these are things that I still feel, or if not, you know what I mean? Because I I wrote on the first thing, Big Bad Who? Drusilla, Darla, Anya, First Slayer, Tara. I was clearly trying to find something. And I would say that, like, for Drusilla and Darla, like, I'm okay with them not being the season 5 Big Bad because I think it makes sense. I think they're definitely a lot more connected to the Angel storyline. I do think it would have felt weird if they would have been the Big Bad, so I totally get that. In regards to Anya, this is something that I think I also put in my season 6 predictions. I think I was so certain that she was going to be getting, like, her powers back that I thought that maybe something could go bad and stuff like that. But they didn't go down there that storyline. They did continue mentioning the whole idea of her saying, like, oh yeah, but I'm a good demon and stuff like that. She's brought it up a few times, and I don't know if that's a setup or if that's just, like, to remind us of who she is. But a part of me still wonders if they could be going down that route of giving Anya her powers back, seeing how she was going to deal with it and those kind of things. But we'll see. The First Slayer, again, I think this is, like, another one of the, just like Anya, it's something that I think maybe still might pay off. Maybe the idea of season 6 could be the idea of season 5 of discussing just the idea of where the Slayers came from. So maybe the First Slayer could have something to do with that. And then my last point was Tara, just because I feel like Tara was such a big part of Restless that I thought she was going to be, like, a huge part of season 5, like a crucial character, which in some ways I think she was, because I mean, she did lead us to glory in the finale. So she is, like, she was very helpful. But I think I definitely assumed that she was going to be more connected to the Big Bad than she actually was, you know, because I had all my theories about her mom and, like, what was the name of the god. Oh, I'm not even gonna try because I know I don't got that right. But you know what I mean? Like, I had such strong feelings about her connecting to that. And so I'd say that, like, Drusilla and Darla, I don't think I think I was just off on those, and I think I was totally wrong. In regards to Anya, the First Slayer, and Tara, I'm not sure if those are things that could still be coming up. Like, I haven't completely discarded them like I have Darla and Drusilla. And then my other notes was, like, non-Slayer job for Giles, and they gave him the magic box, which, honestly, perfect. They, like, amazing. Thank you. What else did I say? Just Tara, instrumental in season 5, which she kind of was, kind of wasn't. I wrote connection with cheese. Girl, I don't know. Anya get her powers back. We already talked about that. And then I put Xander / Giles get a stable job, which I think they both did, because, like I said, Giles with the magic box, Xander with his construction stuff. It's great. And then I put, right next to Giles' name, I put a plus Joyce relationships, which I think I mean seeing them get into relationships, I guess, which I think we explored a little bit for Joyce right before she, you know. So I think that it was great to be able to see Joyce, like, step back into it. I was kind of surprised that we didn't see Giles at all. I mean, I thought he was still dating the lady that we saw in season 4. I mean, she was literally in Restless. And so they kind of just completely dropped that storyline, so I'm not sure where she is. I'm not sure if they're still dating. I'm not sure what's happening there, but I definitely think I thought we would be seeing Giles move on a little bit more. Because now I feel like it's been enough time since Jenny that, like, you know, gotta get back out there, Giles. What else? I put Giles plus alcoholism, which I don't think is a storyline we have discussed yet, but which still stood out to me in season 5. I still think we should and talk about it, so I'm wondering if that's still going to be showing up. What else? I put Xander plus army. Oh yeah, I was definitely feeling like maybe they were going to be doing something about Xander joining the army to some extent, and I'm glad that they didn't. Like, because I just think that, like, the construction stuff just worked so well. He was so good at it. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's growing, like, on his job. He's growing personally. You know, everything's going out so well for him that I think that this was the perfect choice versus the army. I also wrote Willow plus very powerful. I mean, so true. We've seen her in season 5. She gets even more powerful, I guess. This is an ironic one. I wrote Buffy. Riley dies, grief, character progress. Well, I was right in some ways, and I guess I don't like being right for that one. I do think that, I guess I was predicting a Buffy grieving. I thought it was going to be Riley because I felt like it was going to be the best way to get him out of the show. But Joyce makes it even worse. But I guess it means even more character progress for Buffy, but that one really hurt. For Spike, I put a question mark. And I think I stick by that. I think that's kind of how I'm feeling right now as well. It's like, how do I feel about Spike? I guess we'll find out as soon as I get to my character thoughts. For Faith, I put coming back and joining Buffy. Tears. She did not. But like I said, I think I'm okay with that. And then I also put a bullet point, my last one, Spuffy will start. Which I'd say they did. And it's been exciting, weird. I kind of thought that by the pace of things, we would be further into Spuffy by now. But I think that we definitely got sidetracked given, like, everything that was happening in the later end of season 5. I think we kind of forgot Spuffy because, like, we had to forget Spuffy because too much was happening, so it makes sense. So I'm excited to see how that's going to keep playing on. And then I also had, like, my overall wishes for the season, which was Buffy character progress, which I think we definitely got. I think this was the season with the biggest character growth for Buffy, and I'm excited to talk about that. I said Tara plus Anya make friends in the friend group. Make friends in the group, actually, which I definitely think they did. You know, seeing them go to Tara's party, seeing Buffy and Tara talk after class. You know, Anya, you know, her relationship with Willow is quite interesting. They definitely have a banter because they love each other so much. And Anya bonding with Giles has been super interesting. So I do think that they definitely fit into the group a lot more. I also put Giles Xander find something, which, like I said, they definitely did with the construction, with the magic box. I said core 4 drift together again, which, like I said, I also think they have. I think that, their relationship has definitely strengthened, I don't know how to say that word, I guess, a lot this season. I think they definitely felt a lot closer than what they did in season 4. And then I put Joyce plus Giles love interests, which we explored Joyce, but I would say we have not explored Giles yet. And then I put Buffy be single, which she took a little bit longer to become than I thought, because I thought we were setting up them breaking up on, like, 503 as soon as we find out that Riley says that Buffy never loved him. So it took a little bit longer for Buffy to be single, but I guess now she is, even though it feels like she's going to be heading into Buffy really soon. But I kind of want to be able to enjoy her being single for a little bit longer. Anyways, I thought it was going to be interesting to, like, go over these, because I feel like, one second, I want to find where I was actually in my notebook, because otherwise I'm going to get lost in my thoughts process. There we go. I wanted to go back and go over these, like, season 5 predictions and hopes and dreams, just because there's so much that, like, I wanted that they did. And I think that the things that they didn't do were actually things that I was totally okay with and that I understood, because it wouldn't have worked out better because they came up with something better. I would say that probably the only thing that maybe I would have still liked to see them do is in regards to Giles and his love interest. Even though I'm not sure I would, like, have wanted to see it in practice, I do think it would have something that would have been important. And I know that I would probably feel differently if I was actually watching it. But I'd say that that was probably the only bullet points out of all of my season 5 hopes and dreams that I was like, maybe they should have done this or something like that. But anyways, I thought that could be interesting. I was laughing a little. There was also a note while I was reading this yesterday that was actually kind of hilarious and completely ironic that I wrote. What was it? It was something about, like, key, and I was like, oh my god, oh yeah, I literally wrote season 5 key, consistency. And then I was reading this back and I was like, actually it's Dawn, but okay, Domi. But anyways, yes, I do think that I thought that this was going to be the bigger thing in the season, is that it would be a lot more consistent, because season 4 had a lot of ups and downs. And I think they did it. Like I said, this season did feel very consistent overall. Each episode being amazing. You know, no bad episodes. Other than maybe Buffy versus Dracula. But it's not a bad episode. It's just not, like, a great one. Is it even a good one? I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, do I like that episode? Anyways. Okay. Are we ready to head into character arcs? This is going to be a ride. I mean, first character we have to talk about is obviously Buffy, because it is her show. I mean, it's interesting because while I was going over my season 4, like notes. I saw that I made a note that I thought Buffy was the one who had the least character progress in season 4. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting because that's not a feeling that like stayed with me. It was just something that I guess like when I was thinking back on season 4, I came to that conclusion just because it felt like everybody was growing. Xander was so different. Willow was definitely exploring different parts of herself. You know, everybody felt like they were really growing in university, and Buffy felt like she was very still kind of stuck in high school, I think is what I meant by that. And so I was looking forward to Buffy growing. And I mean, you know those things that you say and you immediately regret? Well, I guess I regret it because she did grow, but she grew for like a horrible reason, right? I think that like even before Joyce died, just the fact that she had to go back home and step up and kind of help, you know, like she was going grocery shopping for the family, stuff like that. Like she really had to take charge, and I think it's very big of her to do so, like the level of responsibility that she had to take. But I do think it was a great side of Buffy for us to explore because, you know, we've always sort of seen her struggle a little bit with this idea of like, oh, like does she want to be, how can she be a slayer or and have a life at the same time? And I think that like the slayer life has always felt a little bit more important, but I feel like for this season, and maybe this is why it felt a little bit less like vampire-y, is that it genuinely felt like we were watching Buffy, like Buffy's actual life be more important than slaying, you know? Like the squad was the one going on patrols and stuff because she was having to take care of her mom, you know what I mean? So it was good to see her like shift priorities for once for something that was really, really important. So I really just want to praise Sarah Michelle Gellar. I feel like I say this in every single episode, but like I really have to. I think she is an incredible actress. I don't think anybody else could pull Buffy the way that she does. Is that how you say it? Pull Buffy? Pull out Buffy? Pull off? Pull off Buffy. Yeah, that sounds more right. You know what I mean? Like just nobody can do it like she does. I think she does it so well. She makes me feel each one of Buffy's emotions without having to speak. And this is something that I think she has consistently been able to do. I think that this was a very probably hard season for her to film, given like how emotional it was and how much Buffy was going through. And I think she was really, really able to do it so well with all of Buffy's breakdowns, which were each time harder to watch. You know, I think it was interesting that we did bring some sort of like emphasis to Buffy's mental health with her, you know, having a breakdown, with her eventually having to sacrifice herself. I just think that like there's definitely a lot that we're exploring in regards to like how much Buffy is changing. I think that, like I said, her being a big sister and me finally finding a way to relate to her, I think completely changed her character. I think she felt like, it's not that she felt like Joyce, but she felt like she had more responsibility. She felt like there was just something, like there's a huge shift that happens when she becomes a big sister. And the fact that she has somebody to care about in this way, like she does about Dawn. So I kind of really, really loved that for Buffy. I think she had amazing character progress, even if it was a hard one to watch. And I'm just excited to see her continue to grow. You know, I'd say that if there was one thing that bothered me about Buffy's character this season that like I still have not forgotten, is actually her killing the lady that Riley sort of like cheated on her with. Just because I think it's so interesting that she, like I said, let Glory go, and she was like, sure, I'll let you off with a warning. And for this other girl, she lets her run away, and then she still throws the stake at her. And to me, that felt so Faith. And I know that like people were giving me genuine reasons as to like, yeah, of course she had to kill her. And rationally, I get that, but emotionally, I just see so much of Faith there, and I see so much of like something that's not Buffy, you know, of something like just darker, of like, I don't think she had to do that. I think she wanted to do that. I think it came from a place of revenge, not of a place of like, let's kill the vampires to make this place safer. I think it was more of like, she is not a good person because of what she did to me, and I kind of want to like connect a little bit of a revenge there. I don't know, that I feel like that would be the one thing that like rubbed me off the wrong way. But other than that, you know, I think that Buffy, oh my god, like I didn't think that I could love Buffy any more than I did. I think that it was the prom episode that completely made me like fall in love with Buffy and made me realize that I could try and have other favorite characters on the show, but it wasn't going to work. It had to be Buffy. And I didn't think that I could get bigger than how I felt in that episode, but I feel like season 5 was just testing that line over and over again of like, making me fall in love with her each time more. And to me, something that really stands out to me is how hard she was trying to keep it together. The scene in 50, I want to say 508, where she tells Riley that she can't stop, she can't start crying because if she does, she's never going to be able to stop. And I think of, Buffy finally letting Dawn in the end of Forever and actually, crying and stuff like that. Like, she was trying so hard to keep it together for everyone that I really just need somebody to be able to hug her and tell her it's okay, and tell her that she can feel whatever she wants to feel. I think so much of this season was Buffy trying to like not lose it, which, girl, honestly, same. But at the same time, I feel like I kind of want to be able to see Buffy lose it a little. Want to be able to see her feel all her feelings without having to like keep it together for other people, in regards to Willow, what I wrote for season 4 was that she was open to new beginnings, and I felt like that felt so fitting. It's sorry if I keep referencing other things. I just think it's interesting to see how my opinions might have changed or not, because I said that she was open to new beginnings, and I feel like season 5 is exactly that. Was Willow embracing these new beginnings, embracing, I want to say, like a different side of her life, I want to say, and I think a lot of like Tara and Willow's relationship, but also not just that. I think Willow really came into herself as a witch this season quite a bit, because she was really standing up. Like, I like that when Buffy has a mental breakdown, I hate the way that I started the sentence already. When Buffy has a mental breakdown, comma, I like that Willow is the one to stand up, because I figured that like maybe it would be Giles. I feel like I always naturally gravitate towards Giles because I'm like, he's the eldest. I feel like he probably knows like the most. I feel like he can guide us through anything. I have so much faith in him. That Willow being the one to really step up and take charge this season, at the end of the season, I thought was amazing. And I think that like it was probably a really good setup for what we're going to be seeing right now in 601, because obviously, like we've talked about before, Buffy's, so I want to see how Willow's going to be able to like take charge over that, maybe, because again, I feel like if you had asked me in season 4, I would say that if Buffy died, Giles would be the one who was going to try. I mean, not that Giles isn't going to try and bring her back, but I would say that he would probably be like spearheading, is that a word? Like, he would be the one in charge of doing that. But right now, given what we have seen in season 5, I think that Willow is going to be the one who's going to be in charge of that. She's going to be the one who is like not going to rest until she's able to find a way to bring Buffy back, which is kind of like, I think this for many reasons. I think this because we've seen that happen with Tara, the fact that like she knew that she should be looking into spells for Dawn, but she couldn't stop thinking about how to get Tara back, the fact that she was able to do it. And I also think of what Buffy said before she, which is that Willow is the strongest one of them. And to me, that came as a shock because I figured that she would say Spike because, the reason that she said that she brought Spike in 520 was that he was like the strongest one of them and stuff like that. And so I think it's interesting. Makes me wonder how much she actually needed Spike in 520 versus how much she actually wanted him. But anyways, she said Willow is the strongest. Willow has already proven that she's going to be in charge. And the last thing that makes me feel like Willow is probably going to be the, like, I don't want to say main character of 601, but I kind of want to say it, is that when Joyce died, and in one of my favorite episodes, Forever, they're talking about bringing back people from the dead. And Dawn says something that stood out to me in this episode, and then I guess now stands out even more when I'm reminiscing on it, is that Dawn says like, oh, but if they made all these like pacts not to use it, that means that there must be a way to like bring people back from the dead. And that's something that I thought was so genius for Dawn to like sort of make these connections. I'm like, that is a smart child. And then that is what I think of right now. I think of the fact that I think Willow, we have seen, when she was like on 520, right? Was it 520? Oh, no, it was actually on 519. Yeah, when Willow like completely has like a revenge idea for Gloria and she goes out to like haunt her and stuff. We've sort of seen that that Willow can be slightly reckless, for the people that she loves. And so I wonder, because Tara seems to be very extremely against it. So I wonder if this is going to cause some sort of conflicts with them in the next season where Willow is going to want to do these spells to bring back Buffy, and I don't think Tara might agree with them. So we're gonna see. But anyways, I think that it was super, super interesting to see Willow really grow into herself. I think she's matured in a very different way than Buffy, you know, because I think that Buffy was like a trauma-induced maturing maybe, whereas Willow, I think, is really just like a life, like just kind of seeing life a little bit in a different way. I think season 5 has sort of opened her eyes for that, and I think she's doing like well, you know, other than the fact that, like I said, she was being a little bit reckless and she was going into like a little bit of some heavy magic that I feel like she probably shouldn't be messing with. I'm still okay with it because like she was being so badass and so cool and so powerful, and we're gonna need that if we want to bring Buffy back, which I'm gonna be talking about more later. I'm trying to save this for my season 6 predictions, but it's so hard not to talk about. But anyways, Willow, I love you. You did good, man. You did good. Next in line, Xander. Okay, so I mean, 503 is undoubtedly my favorite Xander-centric episode. I don't think you can get much better than that episode. You know, just the whole idea of Xander having both sides inside of him all along, you know, it's amazing, like seeing everything that he can accomplish. And I think that kind of might have changed him a little. I think that seeing everything that he can be but doesn't think that he can probably shook up his confidence, like in a good way. I mean, like probably gave him the confidence that he needed to understand that he can, you know, propose to Anya, for example. You know, I think that Xander also, like, this really has been the season of maturity for me. And it's hard with Xander because I feel like he had already matured. Like, I genuinely think that in season 4, yeah, I think I said season 4 was like my favorite Xander season because I felt like he was so grown up and mature, and I was really, really enjoying where they were taking his character. And I think I was a little bit afraid that we were just gonna stay at like the same place when it comes to that. Not gonna lie, but I think that he just kept on growing, and I think that is honestly amazing. Like, I love, we didn't, oh my god, I didn't talk about the new setting that was Xander and Anya's apartment. I mean, I love it. The fact that he was able to afford that is honestly amazing, considering like just how young he is. You know, he's like really got his shit together. He's like, you know, he's moved out, he's on that apartment, and like he is just proposed to his girlfriend, you know, like it's very exciting stuff. He feels so grown up, and I like, it just makes sense. I feel like everything that we have seen with Xander is leading up to this, and I really, really genuinely love it. I think that I was so afraid that his character progress was like just, I felt like he had grown so much that I was like, at some point they can't make him like any better. They can just like, that's it. But no, I think they really, really did, you know, and I love his humor. I really, really have a completely different feeling about Xander right now than I do from the beginning of the show, because I feel like when I was watching the first season, I was like not super into Xander for some reason. Like, I guess he just was not a character that I connected with personally. He felt very different than me. But I feel like right now I love him so much that even when I'm rewatching the earlier seasons, which I have been, I love him so much more. And I've kind of hate myself for having some beef with him. I guess I was just like kind of annoyed at him for being so into Buffy and like, you know, not caring about Willow or whatever, like romantically. You know, like I feel like I wish that I could have enjoyed him as much as I enjoy him now, but at least I know that now when I'm rewatching the show, I can genuinely just absolutely love his character. So that's been fun for me because I'm getting to rewatch, you know, seasons 1 and 2 with like a very different perspective on Xander, a perspective of somebody who now genuinely loves him. And now all of his jokes that like some of them, I guess, might have bothered me or whatever, or like some things that he did, I feel like now I'm a little bit of a Xander apologist, and I'm like, no, it's okay, because I still love him. So it's been good. It's been really, it feels very, very good to have a different opinion on Xander and a very like more accepting and loving one. I'm so glad that like I really came to like embrace him because he's just amazing. Yeah, I was trying to look back. What I said in season 4 was that he had the most character progress, but he needs a future. And I mean, I think they did it, man. I mean, can you have a better future than a stable job, an amazing fiance, and a amazing apartment? Like, I'm so sorry. This man has got it together. If anybody has got it together in this show right now, it's Xander, which is not something that I ever thought would be coming out of my mouth. But honestly, tell me somebody who has it together better than he does. Like, nobody. He's doing so well. Yeah, I love him. Good job, Xander. Like, so happy for him. I'm so excited for that wedding, I swear to God. But anyways, next character, we can talk about Mr. Giles. Well, I'm trying to see, I didn't write down what I said for him last season, but yeah, Giles. So Giles, similarly to Xander, I feel like he got a bigger grasp on his life. I want to say with the magic box, I think he really found his purpose, and I think this is something that he's gonna like do forever, if that makes sense. I don't know if I feel this way, because I'm just trying to think of like his previous job as like a librarian. I mean, that definitely did feel purposeful. It did feel like he could be doing this forever, but I feel like the magic box was an even bigger like choice. So this really feels like he found the thing that he wants to do with his life, and I'm really happy for him. I mean, not that he can't do other things. I think that like helping Buffy and being like the Watcher and stuff like that is still big for him, but I do think that it was quite big of him to make this investment in the magic box, and I think it's working really well. So Giles has been very interesting, but I do have a problem with Giles this season, and I feel bad for saying it, but like I said, I am always honest in my videos, and I'm not gonna lie to anybody, and it would feel like lying if I didn't mention this. You know how sometimes people say things that they might not mean? Or sometimes people will do things that you sort of have a really hard time forgetting. Giles kind of did those things for me this season. Unfortunately, Giles did like some major things that I feel like I strongly disagreed with, and then now it's kind of like I can't see him the same way anymore. A little bit. And this is not something that I noticed. I think this was very like unconscious, but I noticed it when I was doing my season 5 Q&A, which by the way is up on Patreon if anybody wants to join. When I was doing that, I also do like a character ranking, and I noticed that when I can't remember who I was ranking him against, but I noticed that like I was keeping a little bit of some beef with him, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that I was keeping some beef with him. But then I noticed like that was the moment where I was like, oh shit, I kind of am. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I am kind of bummed out that Giles didn't step up when it comes to Dawn. And I know how unfair it is for me to say this. Don't get me wrong. I know that this is not his job. But in some ways, I think I rationally I understand that, but emotionally I don't. It felt weird, that he would leave Buffy with this unmeasurable task. I feel like he loves and cares for her so much. Like he was the one taking care of the paperwork when Joyce died and stuff like that. I don't see why he wouldn't be providing her with more help. I feel like Buffy has such a hard time asking for stuff and asking for help. And so the fact that she would ask him for help and he would kind of say no, to me, is hard. And I'm so sorry, Giles. But I am a little bit upset that he didn't ask her, not accept. Like that he didn't help her, that he kind of said no. Because I just feel like even if it's not I don't need him to move into Buffy's house and become the father. That's not what I need. But I think maybe he could have offered to Buffy, if you're having a hard time, I can move in for now and I can help you guys a little bit so that you can get your stuff together, so that you don't have to drop out of college and stuff like that. I feel like it doesn't have to be anything that lasts forever, but I do think that he could have offered some immediate help of what do you need? What can I do to help you? Because I can't be your father, but there are some things that I might be able to do. Maybe he can bring them food when they can't cook all the time. Maybe he can stay with Dawn a couple of times a week so that Buffy can actually go out and have a life, I feel like there was a lot that he could have done. And I feel like saying to me, what that conversation felt was that he was kind of this is your problem and you need to figure out how to deal with this, and I know that that's not how it comes out, and I'm so worried about the way that I'm phrasing this because it's making me feel very, very harsh on Giles. And trust me, I still love that man. You have no idea how hard 520 was. I was so deadly worried for him. Trust me, I still love him with all my heart, but there is this one big thing that really upset me that he did, which is that I really feel like he could have done a little bit more for Buffy, And the fact that he was saying that he's not family, that's the other thing that I had a problem with. I just don't think that's true. I think that the entire message that we have explored throughout the whole season is that family is not just blood. It's more than that. It's what Buffy was saying, the emotional connection that she has to Dawn, the physical connection. And we set this up in family with Tara finding her family, and it doesn't have to be her biological family. It's like her found family. And I think that Giles is definitely Buffy's found family. I think he's all of their families. He knows, like he said this in Family, that he sees himself in a more of a patriarchal role. And so this is what bothers me, because like sure, you may not be related to them by blood, but you know, you have this big role in their lives. And yeah, I guess I do have a lot of feelings about this, and I didn't notice how strongly I felt about it until I was thinking back on it. But that is a scene that has definitely stood out to me, like this, everything that happened there. And then, you know, I think that a little bit of like, it bothered me again when in the finale he tells, you know, when Buffy says like that most beautiful quote ever of like, the last thing she'll see is her protecting her. Giles says something like, she's not your sister. And I'm like, Giles, you can't say that. Like, that's just, like, I completely understand where he was coming from. And on that part, I don't think I blame him as much. I think it's more like I understood what he was doing. Like, even though I don't agree with his perspective in the finale of because I didn't want them to kill Dawn, I totally got where he was coming from. And I totally understood that he needed to have an unbiased perspective of like, we have to save the world. I totally get that. Even if like personally I didn't want him to kill Dawn, I understood where he was coming from, but I don't think there was a need for him to say that. I mean, after everything we've been through, I think that Dawn has definitely proven herself to sort of be Buffy's sister. I don't think there is a part of me that doesn't feel like she's Buffy's sister in some way. And so it just felt wrong, you know? So anyways, in general, I mean, I think Giles is amazing and I'm so happy he found his purpose. But there is this thing that's kind of bothering me. I also wish that he would have told Buffy to not quit school. I think if Joyce was alive, I really don't think that she would have wanted Buffy to like leave school to take care of Dawn. Granted, that would have never happened if Joyce was alive. But I don't think that I don't think this is it. Like, I feel like the entire squad, and this is not just on Giles, was too okay with Buffy giving up her life for Dawn. That feels ironic in the school perspective, and I kind of feel like Giles, as like the big grown-up, should have been the one to be like, Buffy, are you sure that you need to do this? Like, I would have liked to see a little bit more of like a back and forth, a little bit further conversation with that to make sure that this is the right decision. And if they eventually came to terms with like, yes, this is what needs to be done, then so be it, you know. But Buffy saying I want to quit and then being like, okay, Buffy, you do you, ma'am. I'm like, hello, like, we can't let Buffy destroy her entire life because she feels guilty for having to take care of Dawn or something. Anyways, I feel like all of my Giles talk right now is very, very heavy, and I feel like people are not going to be pleased with me. So I apologize in advance. Please don't come yelling at me. This is just how I'm feeling right now. But like I said, I still love that man. But yeah, whatever. Anyways, okay, next character. Dawn. We gotta talk about Dawn. I mean, there's something just so genuinely sweet about Dawn, and like I said, I love that she brings this like younger perspective to things, because I think that she kind of reminds me of, I feel like she makes a connection to like the earlier seasons of Buffy, right? And that way, like, there are certain things that I said of this season that felt very like season 1 to season 3-ish, you know, like high school years, which are like, you know, going back to the bronze setting, going back to Buffy's house. I think Buffy is another, I think Dawn is another one of those things, even though she was not on those seasons. I think maybe because she is younger and because we know she's going to high school and those things, and because she brings in such a family perspective of things, which reminds me of Joyce, which reminds me of the earlier seasons, I think Dawn is a very big reminder of just like the roots, you know, like a nostalgic reminder of Buffy's roots and stuff. She's a fascinating character. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be attached to a like key. You know what I mean? Like, when you presented her to me, not you, but the show presented her to me, I did not think I was going to care about her, because I think I felt similarly than Giles. Like, that is not Buffy's sister. I don't know who that is. And what? You know, and the fact that they were actually able to make me care for her, I think is pretty impressive. I mean, okay, maybe not that impressive, because I do end up caring about characters, but I just mean that like I wouldn't expect one season to be able to create a bond like I did with Dawn, I feel, because I think that, of course, I care about her because Buffy cares about her, but I think that there's also a huge part of me that cares about her as a character as well. And I think that's what I didn't notice happening. I think that I've always cared about Dawn a little because I noticed how protective Buffy was over her, because as soon as we find out about the key, I thought it was incredible that Buffy still treated Dawn the same way. And then as soon as I noticed that connection and I noticed that love, I was like, okay, well, if Buffy loves Dawn, then I love Dawn by proxy. Which is kind of like, I would say, how I feel about Joyce. But then I think I started seeing Dawn as more of her own character as time went on. Like, I started, I think, loving her as an individual even more. And so I think that's fun. Like, I just think that's great. The fact that they were really able to do that is not something I would have imagined. And um, she reminds me so much of my sisters. She really, really does. And I just think she's such like a relatable character. I feel like people just know a Dawn. I feel like she's the perfect like, even if you don't have a younger sister, she perfectly encapsulates that idea of like having a younger sibling. Because even if you don't have like yours, you've seen your friends and stuff like that. And overall, I love like the ending. I think just shows me so much of like, I think a huge part of why I love Dawn is that I know how much she loves Buffy as well. I think we focus a lot on Buffy's love for Dawn, but seeing how much, like, I think that Dawn demonstrates her love by admiring Buffy. And that's always something that like they've hinted towards, I feel, but I feel like the biggest proof of that was when Dawn was literally ready to kill herself in the finale. Um you can't get more Buffy than that. Sacrificing yourself for the good of the world. Come on, that is literally Buffy 101. And I think that Dawn having no doubts about that and immediately being ready to die, even though she's so young, is very, like, I think is very influenced by Buffy. I think she's seen Buffy be the most selfless person so many times that I think that for her, you can just see that she is, I want to say, her mother's daughter, his sister's sister. You know what I mean? It just sort of came naturally to her. And so I really, really just genuinely did not think I would love Dawn as much as I love Dawn, but I think she was an amazing addition to this cast. Definitely like a breath of fresh air. And even though I definitely don't think I loved her so much in the beginning, I've really grown to change my mind about her. So I also like being able to go through that like emotional process of like actually understanding where she's coming from. Yeah, I feel like Dawn just brings in this idea of like innocence to the show that I kind of really enjoy. And talking about like the opposite of innocence, I guess we should talk about Spike. Um, I want to start off by saying that the backstory that we were presented to was honestly great. I love Fool for Love, getting to see his past, like his triggers, everything that made him what it is, the fact that you can understand why he's such a romantic, with like his poet's background, like backstory. I thought it was genius. I feel like it adds up to the character so well because we've always seen him like pining over these women like Drusilla and then now, Buffy. And so I feel like it was the perfect like sort of explanation for that. And like it showed that he's sort of always been this way. And I guess maybe like the vampire side of him makes it all feel a little bit more extreme and maybe a little bit creepier. But I think it all comes out of a place of like love. I think he's a very interesting character right now because I really thought that we would like have gotten past the chip. I really thought that was gonna like, I guess I just sort of thought we were gonna get rid of it because to me it feels like a character, it feels like this is forcing him to be good, if you know what I mean. And I would like to see him like prove himself out of his own free will, but at the same time I don't think that's possible with a vampire. Like he wouldn't have that free will if he didn't have the chip. And I know that the chip isn't like making him be a good guy. He sort of just like is possibly turning into one. It's interesting because I feel like in some ways he's still trying to hold into like his big bad title. And I think there were some moments in the season where I genuinely felt like maybe he was going to try and go big baddie-ish again. But like in general, I feel like he's grasping towards something that's not there as much anymore, which is interesting because I feel like what he had going for him is that the squad was scared of him and now they're kind of not. And I'm gonna wait to talk about this when I'm talking about like Buffy in general, but I'm just so shocked with the amount of trust that came from Buffy to Spike this season. Like overall, she trusted him as though he's a part of the squad. And I think that's what's like making him a part of the squad right now. So, kind of a surprising turn of events. I didn't expect things to be escalating, I want to say, like this quickly, especially with him still, being a vampire who makes doubtful decisions. Like, I love Spike and I think I'm okay with most of the things that he does because I'm like, he's a vampire and stuff like that. I do think that the one moment where he sort of crossed a line this season was in regards to like the sex robot, the Buffy robot and stuff. Buffy bot, I think is what you guys call it. I'd say that part was a little bit weird. A little bit too weird. Like, it just felt very wrong, very, like, I feel like it takes a little bit away of the romance, the fact that, like, he thinks that he can just replicate her. I feel like it makes it feel a little bit less special, but I also understand his point of view in the sense of, like, he feels like he's never gonna have her, so this is, like, the closest he can get. But it felt too disturbing. But other than that, I feel like I'm mostly okay with everything that happened with Spike. It's hard to talk about him as a character without talking about his relationship with people, because I feel like that's pretty much what this season was him creating bonds with Joyce, with Dawn, with Buffy. I guess he's just really into the Summers girls. But overall, I feel like it's been interesting to see how he is changing with time and how he can still make like mistakes, like major mistakes, like getting the Buffy bot. But overall, I think he's really trying to be a better man. Maybe. I just wonder what parts of him are actually evil and what parts of them he is trying to make it seem are still evil. But in general, what I wrote for him in the last season was that he felt like a new person and had potential for change. And I feel like we did go down that route. I do think that, like, season 4 felt like a very different version of Spike than we had seen before after he got chipped, of course, and he was definitely coming into those feelings. I feel like he probably hadn't experienced feelings like that for a while. And honestly, I still feel like that stretch of episodes where Spike was in Giles's house was probably the best version of Spike we've ever seen. He was just so funny, and I absolutely adored each one of those episodes. I looked forward to seeing Spike in each one of them. It does feel like he's coming into terms with this new person that he has to be. I think that he was very into the idea of getting rid of the chip. It kind of feels like he just gave up now, which I kind of respect, and I kind of feel like it just adds up to the story and the fact that, like, he's just coming to terms that this is who he is now. And I do think that the season has been a lot about that character progress. So yeah, that's on Spike. I feel like we're going to talk more about Spike once I get into character relationships. But anyways, let's talk about Anya. So, I mean, she is great. She's great. I think she is also one of the people who had the biggest character progress this season, because she's just so incredible. Her humor, I think Anya, do I dare to say it? I might. I think maybe Anya has like the best humor in the show, at least at this point of the show. I don't know. Does she? Maybe. I feel like every time that she speaks, I kind of want to laugh. Like, she's just so fun. I love the perspective that she brings. I feel like she brings a perspective actually similar to Dawn, in the sense that Dawn feels so fresh, new, innocent. And I think that, because she is so new to this world and she doesn't understand, the basic concepts, for example, like grief, I think she definitely brings this, like, I want to say fresh eyes to everything. And I really, really love that about Anya. I think she's amazing. I love how she's like super overprotective over Xander. I mean, she threw him out of the way in the finale and got hurt because of him. Not just that, but like she's so just overprotective about him in general. But I love that she's like overprotective, but still, like, for example, lets him, I think it was like with Buffy, right? There was this whole thing where she was like, yeah, I'm not jealous. And she really kind of wasn't. She's like super confident in their relationship. And I love that about her. The fact that she doesn't feel threatened. I mean, I do think that there was some sort of like rivalry in between her and Willow in regards to like who cares about Xander the most, kind of. But I think that, like, in general, I think she's so certain of the way that she feels about Xander and that he feels about her that I just kind of love that. I love that for them so much. And I think it's been an incredible journey of seeing her grow, seeing her understand life, understand the world, how it works. And I think it all perfectly sums up in the end of the episode where she says, like, my gut instinct would be to run, but now, like, she cares about them too much that she can't, and I just think about season 3 and about her wanting to run away when, when the ceremony, the graduation day was coming. And, this time I don't think it even, like, I guess it crossed her mind, but not as like a serious possibility. So I do think that immediately shows character growth, caring about people so much. I think all these people are so, not to make this all about Buffy, but it kind of is. I feel like all these people are so influenced by her selflessness and the love that she shows everybody, that I think it just like inspires them to like be better people and to like care so deeply about the people that they care about. I don't know. But anyways, Anya, definitely one of my favorite characters. I am so glad that she got up to a series regular this season. Seeing her on the intro has been a delight. I love that now we actually get to see her pretty much every episode, I would say. I think I don't think there was a single episode that she missed, right? Because also she's on the intro. So I'm just so happy for her. I think that Anya is one of the best characters we've seen in the Buffyverse, and I feel like I could never get enough of Anya. I could have entire episodes just about Anya, and I'd be okay with that. And, similar to Spike and them presenting a little bit of some backstory, I do like that in Triangle, it was Triangle, right? We got some backstory for Anya as well, with her past lover, with her whole Anyanka backstory and figuring out how she even became a revenge demon and stuff like that. Like, it's just so, it's so interesting that we were actually really able to focus on the backstory of so many of these characters, which leads me on to my next point of Tara. That's a good segue, right? Because we talked about Spike's backstory, we talked about Anya's backstory, and we definitely talked about Tara's backstory in regards to her family, right? Like, that was a really, really big one. And I'd say that, like, overall with Tara, I feel like it has been a season, I want to say, of relief, just in the sense of I'm so relieved that we found out why she had jinxed that spell in was it 415 or 16? I think 416. When they were trying to find the demon. I'm so glad that all made sense, because there was a part of me that I was like waiting for Tara to betray me and be like a bad person. And I was like, you know what? I'm not having this. So I'm so glad that we were able to like get that out of the way, because I felt so much relief after that. Because listen, I would love Tara even if she was the big bad. Don't get me wrong, but I love her and Willow a little bit too much that I was like, I don't want to have to go through this right now. So it's been great with Tara. And then the other relief, I would say, was just like in the finale, her being able to get her like her sanity back. That was a really stressful storyline for Tara. Overall, I kind of do wish we had a little bit more of her this season. But I kind of understand why not. Like, I feel like all the episodes that she wasn't on, there were definitely some moments that I missed her. But like an episode, for example, like Fool for Love, I don't think Tara was in that episode, and I kind of understand it. But just in general, I love her so much that I would genuinely love to fit her into like every single scene that we have. Because she's just great. I love like just literally everything about her. Yes. And I feel like they might have underutilized her a little, because, there were some episodes that she wasn't there, and there were also some episodes where she was literally cuckoo nuts and wasn't exactly talking much or doing much other than like just standing there looking very sad and upsetting me. But in general, I'd say Tara is like maybe the most, I feel like she has one of the kindest hearts, I think that for me, what I love about Tara is just like her genuine kindness and like sweetness. I feel like, and maybe this is why she reminds me of Dawn. There's just like this pure innocence of her, I think, of somebody who can remain positive, you know what I mean? Because we actually found out that she has a pretty rough backstory. I mean, she lost her mom at a young age. She cannot rely on her family. And I feel like it could have all made her into like a person who's upset with the world. And I like that she was really able to turn that and actually use that into becoming a strong, resilient person who can, I feel like she's good at focusing on the positive and maintaining the calm. I think that, I really, really loved seeing Tara on the body, because I feel like she was kind of the one gluing them together there, because she had been the one who had experienced loss before. I think it just really, I thought it was quite beautiful to see how much she was helping Willow, how much she helped Buffy as well. I think that it's really quite incredible to see everything she has been through and how that turned her into who she is, and that now I'm just quoting family, but it's kind of true. And also, I just feel so happy that I feel like both her and Anya really fit into the team. You know, I have such memories of her, and I can't remember exactly what they were discussing about, but I feel like I remember her and Anya being in the bathroom in Jos's apartment, just like letting the squad sort of like fight it out or whatever. And now I like that. I feel like I don't see the squad being like, I don't. It's not that the squad never asked either of them to leave, but I feel like I don't see a reason for them to be like backing out. If that makes sense, I feel like right now they are so into the group that I feel like they would be a part of every discussion that happens. They just feel like they are really genuinely a part of the squad. I think that was established for me for both characters this season. So that was one of the highlights of the season, that they really genuinely feel like, I'd say that because I've always seen this as sort of like Buffy, Giles, Xander, and Willow as sort of being like the core four, right? And I feel like this season might have changed my mind and opened that up a little into maybe it being a little bit of a more ensemble cast, a little bit of a bigger group, because they're all starting to feel like they have similar levels of importance. And overall, I feel like Tara was just very rational throughout. I like that she feels her emotions, but she's also able to like think things through. So I like that, she's able to tell, Willow, like, sort of, this is how we should deal with Dawn. She was also protecting Dawn in the body. Oh my God. She was literally taking care of everybody. Tara, I adore you. I would die for you. She's just amazing. And I'd say that my one wish for her is that, oh my God, I really, really hope she gets upped to series regular in the next season. I need it. I need to see her in the intro. Like, I need this so badly now that like we actually have her back and she can speak, because that was genuinely such a stressful storyline for me. I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to think about it. But anyways, I guess we should talk about Joyce, because I was talking a little bit about the body and forever. It's just so upsetting because I feel like this was such a great season for Joyce. We really got to see a completely different side of her and being vulnerable. And while there's something extremely devastating about seeing her in a vulnerable position, I feel like it also made my appreciation for her grow a little bit more. I don't know. I keep thinking of, like, I want to say Crush and even I Will Remember You. And oh no, Domi, wrong episode. I Was Made to Love You. Oh my God. Please, Domi, no Bangel breakdowns right now. Anyways, I Was Made to Love You is what I was going for. Yeah, I'm thinking about Bangel now, but it's fine. Back to Joyce. She was like, her bond with Buffy felt like it was getting so much stronger. I like that she was talking to Joyce about, like, the relationship problems that she was having with Spike, sort of. I like that, even earlier on in the season, she was kind of talking, Joyce was like, you have to go out with Riley. And they were kind of being really open about it in a way that, I mean, it was still not that open because it was a bit embarrassing for them to talk about it. But I also like that they kind of were. They both knew what was happening. I think it was in 5'9" or 5'10"? I don't know. But anyways, like a hospital scene that they were talking about. But anyways, and then also, when Buffy is helping Joyce, get ready for her date and all that stuff, and like the dress scene, like I am haunted by that forever, because it was probably one of their sweetest scenes, and the fact that it was all a setup to hurt me at the end of the episode is really upsetting. But anyways, I think that like I definitely started liking Joyce more as a character this season. It's just so upsetting that they would make me bond with her and then kill her off. But I feel like it's perfectly on brand. The fact that they would make her even more interesting, they would give her more screen time, they would make the bonds with her, children and daughters seem even better, all for it to come crashing down. But overall, I'd say no, I would not say that. I'd say it was a good season for Joyce, except so I'm just gonna move on. Who's next on my list? I need to not think about this. Okay, we should talk about Riley, because we're talking about like bad things that happened in this season. I'd say Riley was probably one of them. I don't know what happened, and I don't know when this happened, but Riley sort of went from, I really enjoy him, to like, he's fine, to he's a good love interest, to I despise him and I'm ready for him to leave. And I don't know exactly when things changed, but all I know is that, like I said, the more I watch the season, the less compelling he becomes. And similarly to what I was saying about Giles doing some things that I don't agree with, I think Riley was another character that I would say I have some beef with, just in the sense that I really do not enjoy any of his actions in 510. You know, I don't think the ultimatum was the way to go. I think that's just mean. I think that's rude. I think that like he was he was too quick in going back to this like military initiative style life that he said he left behind, which to me shows that he had never really left it behind. The fact that like as soon as they see the little extraterrestrial, whatever the name of that monster was, he just calls the initiative right up. I'm like, sir, we like, no, absolutely not. But like I feel like he's just always been thinking about it, and I feel like this was like the push that he needed to just do what he wanted to do, you know. And I think overall one of the things that bothered me the most about Riley was like, how do you find out, well, not even find out, but how are you certain that your girlfriend doesn't love you and don't think it's important to discuss that? How do you not bring it up? How is this not like a major red flag in your relationship? I don't know. So I'm really upset just because like I kind of wish that they had ended that relationship with me like, actually, do I was gonna say I kind of wish they ended it with me liking it a little bit more, because then there was always going to be this like I feel like it just adds to like the nostalgic feeling. And I think of like Bangel, how they kind of ended, I want to say, on like good terms, of like they both kind of still liked each other. And I think of like Willow and Oz, you know, where it's more like the circumstances rather than the feelings. Whereas this one, it kind of just feels like the feelings faded out, or like and I think that just like makes me care for Riley less, because I know that like he just pissed me off in the way that he left the show. And I'm glad that he left, and I really don't think I want to see him again. I did say that like I didn't see how he would fit into season 5, and I think I really stick by that after watching season 5. I'm like, okay, this is a character that definitely did not need to be here, and I think that they got rid of him when they had to get rid of him. I think he would have definitely taken away from like the emotional stakes of the rest of the season. And so I'm glad that they got rid of him, because I was definitely done with that man. Let's see. Oh yeah, oh my god, I think I was a little bit rude in my notes, so I'm not even gonna read what I said. But yeah, he was also very impulsive, and I mean, he was pretty much cheating on Buffy. There's no other nice way to put this. You know, we've always talked about how like the biting of the vampires and stuff is like very sexual in nature. That was just his way of cheating on Buffandra. And I'm not here for that. I don't think you should ever cheat, especially when it comes to Buffy. I also made a note. What was the note? It said Riley 509 notes. So now I want to see what that was about. I literally made these notes like yesterday. I think I said something very harsh. What was it? I said Riley fully transitioning into a dick. Still a government bitch baby. And then I made a note, Vampire Riley. It just keeps going. Yeah. You know what? I think I wanted to come back to this. Because I think that when I was doing my 509 recap, I was a lot nicer about the way that I said that, but I think that is exactly how I feel. So I think that's why I made this note to myself to go back to 509 notes. Yeah. Also, yeah. He was a bit boring. I'm like reading through what I wrote to like guide me in this conversation. Yes, he was boring, and he definitely was a little bit manipulative. It's like he cheated on Buffy, and then he still wants her to like immediately forgive him and beg him to stay, even though that's clearly not what he wants. Just everything about that, Riley. I'm so sorry. You lost me, man. You absolutely lost me. Okay. Anyways, we should just move on, because I don't think he's that interesting of a character to stay here that long talking about him. Okay. I talked about Harmony. I mean, I think that she had some great moments this season. I think that she always brings in a lot of humor when she's here. I do wish we had seen her a little bit more. I'm kind of glad that I think that her and Spike are like over for good, because that relationship is so wrong. But in general, I hope that we can still find ways to like bring her into the show, because I think she's so interesting. I think she has so much potential, and I think she always brings in the perfect amount of humor. And like I said, I've always been really curious to like follow through with that journey of a human becoming a vampire. Which I think also connects me to my vampire Riley question mark in my 509 notes, because I was like, oh my god, are they going to make Riley into a vampire? Because I thought it would be interesting, but they did not think about that, but it's fine. I mean, they probably thought about it and they were like, that's a bad idea, which, yeah, it is, and I agree. Buffy writers. Okay, who else do we got? Kind of want to leave Glory for last. So let's talk about the night people. I went back and forth about this. I think I actually talked about this in 522, so I don't think I'm going to go into much detail, but I did think it was interesting how they proved to be such a huge threat of like, we're never going to stop coming, and we're like, you're never going to get rid of us. And then Glory defeated them in literally like a second. And I think that like this really just went to show how big of a big bad Glory is and how easily she was able to do that. But I have to say that I kept waiting for the night people to come back, because I was like, they said they were never going to stop coming. Were all of the night people there that day? When, you know, outside of the, like in the desert thing, outside of where they were hiding, like I don't know, but overall I'd say that they were pretty interesting. They felt very like military-ish, you know, like they're there with a mission and they got to go through with the mission and they have to do it like no matter the cost, you know. And yeah, they were interesting people. I like the head bitch in charge. He was a nice man. Well, not nice, but interesting. He told us a bit about Glory. It was interesting. So let's talk about, I mean, I already talked about Jinx and the other minions and stuff. I think they were one of the highlights of Glory. They're just incredible. I love them. Ben, I mean, I think that Ben, I kind of feel about him in a similar-ish way than Riley, just in the sense of how I felt about Riley in the beginning, which is like, he's a little bit too boring. I mean, nothing specifically against him. He's never done anything to hurt me. Well, he has a few things, but I mean that like, I feel like my biggest beef with him was that he was just not interesting enough. I was like, you were just not good enough for Buffy. And not that anybody is, but I feel like if you want to date the coolest character in the world, you're probably going to have to be a little bit cooler. And he just felt like he was a little bit too much of a basic little bitch. I say this with all my love. And then, of course, I feel like there's been so much back and forth that I still don't know how I feel about Ben. It's like, he helped us in some ways. He fucked us up on others. But, like, also it was probably not his fault most of the time. He really just, like, he was dealt a bad card. I think that's an expression, right? Doesn't have the best life, so like I don't necessarily blame him for it. I think my biggest problem with him is that he just felt like he had nothing more to him other than going to work and going home. And then I guess he did get more interesting when we find out that he's like, you know, a Glory. You know, that definitely upped the stakes and made him more interesting, because I feel like if they hadn't done that, I would have been like, this is just like not that interesting of a character. But then once they did that with Glory, he immediately became scary. But anyways, we should talk about Glory. I mean, I already talked about her a bit. I don't know what else I have to say about her other than I think she was a very, very solid big bad. I think she had amazing humor. I think she seemed like unhinged and mentally unstable in a way that really made her feel scary. I don't think I've ever been this scared of a big bad. I think they really were able to like raise the stakes with her, because she felt like I said, she had a good mission. She felt like she was going to do anything because she had nothing to lose, you know, and she kind of had a man on the inside with Ben. You know, she had, like I said, amazing humor, and the minions around her even elevated her humor. So in general, I would say that Glory was pretty amazing. I mean, I think that Adam kind of like peaked in his intro. You know, he was like super interesting when he was presented, and then it just sort of like it wasn't able to get further than what they did when he was presented in the show. Whereas Glory, I feel like she got cooler and scarier the more that we knew about her, you know. I mean, she made people insane, for Christ's sake. She did feel like we were never going to be able to beat her, and I'm still surprised / kind of worried, like, did we beat her? Were we actually able to do that? Because she's just so... And I'd like that we had a backstory for her, you know, with, like, the other two demon people or whatever that saw her becoming too powerful. Like, I really enjoy all the buildup that was made for her. I think this is probably the big bad that feels, well, the most connected to the story because of Dawn, but also the one that feels like it was most thought out. Like, this is definitely a big bad that from the first episode of the show, they knew exactly where they were taking her. I don't think there were any doubts about this story. I think they had a very clear plan for her, and I think they really followed through. And like I said, there were no moments of like being stagnant in the same place, or like, her becoming a little bit less interesting. It just kept going up. It kept getting scarier, cooler, and I really appreciate them for doing that. So in general, to sort of like wrap up the character arcs, I would say that who did I write? I am going to give my award for untapped potential again for season 5 this time. I didn't give this one much thought, so I'm not sure I'm going to agree with myself after I say this, but I put Dracula as number 1. Just kind of weird, but I feel like he was the character that when I was presented to it, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then I don't think it hit that level for me, like I talked about. So I think that more could be done with Dracula. I think it could have been interesting. Could have been fun to see him again. Don't know if we will be, but I would be okay and started like excited for that. Number 2, I put Joyce, just because I feel like it was kind of mean that the only moments where we actually got to explore Joyce were just to make her death seem more painful. So I think I would have liked to see a little bit more of Joyce without having to like, because now I feel like all the scenes I associate with like her death kind of like, I think, yeah, maybe Joyce. Number 3, I put Harmony, because I think she has so much potential to become like a really interesting character, and I just don't think they explored her all that often. And then I put a special mention for Tara, because they ignored her in a few episodes, and I'm not okay with that. So I think this was just like a reminder to the writers to like include a little bit more of Tara, because I feel like there's always more to explore about her. Okay, let's move into my next page, which is about character relationships. Like I mentioned, this is not just about romantic relationships. I feel like it's actually mostly going to be about like friendships, or like even other kinds of bond, like family bonds, which is kind of where I want to start by talking about Buffy and Dawn. Probably the best relationship we have seen, I want to say. Because like I said, I feel like it's all about the love. It all comes back to the love. And I think these two characters who are both willing to die for each other, and who, know the truth about how it all came to be and don't care because what they feel is stronger, I think is really, really meaningful. Just, in general, I feel like this relationship had so much progress. I think that like they really started being honest with each other. I think that Buffy was trying to protect Dawn so much. In the beginning, sorry, I have to take a sip of water. I've been talking for so long, my throat is giving out on me. But I think that, Buffy was really trying to protect Dawn so much, and from the truth, even because she thought it was what was meant to happen. But I feel like ever since the truth sort of started coming out about, Dawn being the key, and Buffy stopped trying to shelter her from the truth and started being more open. And I'm also thinking about the last scene of Forever. I think that really bonded them, Dawn being able to know the truth. I think that so much of like, she knew Buffy was hiding so much, and I think that's what was sort of keeping them apart. And I think that the moment where the truth starts coming out, they really were able to bond. And like I said, I think this is just an amazing bond, because like I hadn't noticed that I was missing this on the show, but I now realize that like, we hadn't really explored family dynamics so much, in the sense of like all the characters seem to be like only children. I don't think we had talked about like siblings at all. And personally, like I said, this just hits home because I have younger sisters and I love them, and I think that it's definitely a story that I really, really enjoyed. And I think that Dawn was like the perfect addition. I hate to say this, and I hate myself for saying this. She was the perfect addition to make Joyce's death seem harsher, because if Dawn wasn't there, I think it would have been easier for Buffy to handle it, because she would have just had to handle it for herself. But now she has to handle it for herself and for Dawn. She has somebody else that she needs to stay strong for. And so I think that Dawn was like definitely, I want to say like an interesting, I want to say replacement maybe to Joyce, where like Buffy still needs to have some sort of like family, I guess. And so this was their way of doing that, and of making it all seem even more harsh. But in general, like I said, love them. Such a strong relationship, and really curious to see how that's all going to switch when Buffy comes back from, So, anyways, about Buffy and Joyce, I'm so glad that their relationship got stronger this season. Granted, it didn't end the best of ways. Oh my god, wait, no, actually, they're both dead, so maybe they can, maybe they can, like, meet each other in heaven and talk it out a little bit. Maybe Joyce can give her some advice on like how to cope with, being dead or something. That's horrible. Yeah, I'd say that they didn't have the best ending, either of them. But in general, god damn it, now I can't stop thinking about that, but it's fine. In general, I would say that like uh they definitely drifted apart so much in season 4 that it was good to see Buffy come back to her roots and actually show like she cares about her mom, because I was a little bit worried about that when she went off to college and seemed to like almost forget about her a little, which I think is like understandable. When you move out, you kind of want to like move out for a little bit, but I think that it does make sense to like come back. I think this is like, I don't mean come back literally, but I mean come back in the sense of like, I think when you're immediately away, I could understand somebody wanting to create that distance to sort of grow a little. But of course, you're going to end up coming back to your parents if you have a good relationship with them, because they're your parents. And so overall, it was. I feel like Joyce really treated Buffy as an adult this season. I think it has so much to do with the character progress, but I think that the way that they were having like their relationship talks and stuff like that, and I didn't feel like she was trying to micromanage Buffy. I think she was just trying to like genuinely like give her advice instead of lecturing her. I think shows a lot of like how their dynamic shifted, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm kind of upset that like it's all over now, because I feel like they could have so much more progress and like really getting to understand and know each other and help each other more. But anyways, I'm not gonna go there because that's kind of sad. I do like that they were also, even in like a short amount of time, able to create a bond in between Dawn and Joyce, because I think it's sweet that even though Joyce knows the truth, she's also not affected by it. Like, even the same thing as Buffy, it's kind of incredible how even when they know the truth, like, I guess these monks are just so goddamn powerful to create a bond that's like so special and so real and so deep. But yeah, I like that they were able to create a little bit of a bond with that as well, because I think it would have felt weird if we saw Buffy connected to Dawn and we saw Buffy connected to Joyce, but we didn't see Joyce connected to Dawn. But I really think they were able to do that. I think that so much of what Buffy and Dawn's relationship is becoming right now since Joyce died is probably mirroring what Buffy has seen Joyce do in a way. I think that like, well, even from the beginning, Buffy being so overprotective, I was like, this is literally how Joyce was to Buffy in season 1 and stuff. And I think that being able to like see all of that just really connects the story kind of like full circle of like, this is how Joyce treated her, this is how she's going to treat Dawn. And yeah. Okay, let's move on to another relationship. I feel like we should head into a little bit of romance territory when it comes to Buffy, and I think we should talk about Buffy and Riley. Like I said, listen, I actually really genuinely enjoyed them. And I've said this a million times, but I always go back to Doomed. I feel like when I watched Doomed, I was like, holy shit, mind blown. Like, I really thought that I could potentially ship them as much as I shipped Angel. I feel like at the, like, Angel, I mean. Like, at that one moment, I genuinely felt like they peaked. And then that's the problem. Nothing hit it like Doomed did for me. And like, it was still hitting me because I still feel like they had amazing quotes, and I just really enjoyed. I think for them, it was less about the actions and more about like their talks and their discussions. I feel like, well, also just the hard eyes that Buffy gave at him. But I feel like in general, I really enjoyed their discussions. I enjoyed what they talked about. Like, in general, I feel like Buffy always said the most beautiful things to him. And even he said some beautiful things back. And I think that's what really got me hooked on them for so long. But I think that like from the moment where, I think 503 is what broke it for me. I could not get over him telling Xander that Buffy doesn't love him. I think that's what broke it for me. I realized that like they're not on the same page. This is never going to work out. So I kind of feel like the breakup could have been done a little bit quicker, but at the same time, I'm just glad it was done. But in general, I'd say those are my feelings about Buffy and Riley. They worked for a while, and then they didn't. And then they were just there. and they were together because it was more convenient to be together than actually like loving each other. I think it was more like, well, now we're already together, so what can we do about this? You know, I feel like breaking up was harder than just like staying in this convenient relationship. And I think that after giving it thought, like, I do think Buffy loved him. I think that, like, Riley, it was just not the way that Riley wanted to be loved or like what Riley was expecting, but you know, the things that she said to him, the ways that she's looked at him, like, that's love. And I feel like he shouldn't be allowed to tell her what is love or what isn't, because that's only she's gonna know. But at the same time, she hasn't really been able to say that she loves him like that, right? I think she loved him in the best capacity that she could. And that just wasn't enough for him, and that should have been enough for him to hop out. Because I think it was sort of working for Buffy because she was giving it her all, and like, that's that. But Riley's all was not the same as hers. So I think it was kind of on him to break that up, and I kind of hate that he didn't until like the moment where he had to, absolutely had to. And you know, I feel like I also don't love how he's like, I think it was in Family where he goes to her and he's like, oh, if you ever decide that you want to let me in, you let me know. I'm like, people can have lives outside of their special someones, their love interests, and sometimes she's going through things, like she's a slayer too, so there's some things that like he knows that she can't talk to him about, like with Dawn and stuff. Like, I mean, he didn't know it was Dawn, you know, but then also like I feel like it's very telling the fact that she wouldn't tell him that Joyce is in the hospital and that that would come from Spike. I mean, I think it's telling that she wouldn't tell anyone about that. You know, because the fact, I mean, I think a lot of it is that like she wants to be able to do it herself. She doesn't want to have to ask for help. But I think another part of it is that like I don't think she necessarily, I think she wanted someone to be there. I don't think she necessarily was like, I want that person to be Riley. I think she just sort of needed a hug. But anyways, that's on Buffy and Riley. Kind of glad that they're over. But now that I'm talking about Buffy and her love interests, y'all know I gotta talk a little bit about the Angel. Their interaction this season was, I think, beautiful. Angel coming back to support her, I think, is very mature and grown up of them. You know, the fact that like maybe if this was early, I mean, yes, I mean, in Panks, he was literally running away from her so that he didn't have to sort of like face her. And I think the fact that he would like come back, even if it does mean having a bit of an awkward conversation, the fact that he would still come back to support her, I think means a lot. I don't think that they should have kissed. I don't think they should have led into the romance, but I feel like at the same time Buffy was grieving, so I sort of understood where that was coming from, her just wanting that comfort. I do feel like Angel should have stopped her, but at the same time I was like, well, if Buffy was kissing me, would I stop her? And then I was like, can I really blame Angel? I don't think I can. But in a way, do feel like that was a line that shouldn't have been crossed. But I do think like, I don't say this in the sense of like I don't think they should have written it in, but I mean this in the sense of like I wish that they wouldn't have done that, but I think it makes sense that they did, kind of. But I do think that it was good for me personally to see them kiss, and like how awkward and like not it's felt. I was like, oh, I guess this really means that like they're over. And I mean, I've always known that, but I think that like seeing them go into the romance and have it not feel right, solidifies the fact that Angel is over for me, which is kind of upsetting, but you know, I'm really, I think, trying to get through even though it's been like a really long time. Like I've gotten through it, but I really enjoyed being able to see them rely on each other as like friends and not like love interests, you know. I guess this means I have to talk about like the third, you know, we've talked about the before, we talked about like the present sort of, and I think we should talk a little bit about the future with Buffy and Spike. I mean, I've had so many like feelings about Buffy and Spike this season, I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like they went there a lot sooner than I thought they would, because like they started setting up Spike even before Riley was gone. And to me, that was already a shock, because I feel like they started doing that all the way back in season 4. I mean, what is something blue other than a huge setup for Buffy and like testing the waters, right? At least that's how I feel. I need more water, one sec. So I feel like we have been talking about it, and I feel like it got serious pretty quickly in the sense of I wasn't expecting Spike to actually be in love with Buffy. I thought it was going to be something a little bit more physical of like, they always felt like they had a lot of chemistry within that hate. You know what I mean? Within the looks and stuff like that. So I thought it was going to be something more physical that was going to eventually maybe turn into like feelings, but the fact that it's actually coming from the feelings, coming from the vampire's feelings, is not how I thought this was going to be going. And that happened pretty quickly, right? Because he had those sex dreams about Buffy in 504, right? So I think we set up pretty quickly that like he knew this was happening. It was interesting to see him like sort of come to terms with that and just sort of like understand that that's how it is. And I think what confuses me about this storyline is that I don't think I know how Buffy feels about him. And I keep going back and forth with it, you know, because I think that there were so many moments where I was like, oh, she feels it and she knows it. And then there are episodes like Crush where she's like, oh my god, what? He's into me? And I'm like, girl, there is no way that you experienced Fool for Love and didn't realize that this man was in love with you. Come on. You know, I feel like there's just been so much tension in between them, like palpable tension, that I'm excited to see that follow through. And I do want to like really I praise the writers and say thank you for I hate saying this, but thank you for giving us a Spuffy break, because I don't think I would have been able to focus on that right now with everything that was going on after Joyce. I feel like we did take a break. We were talking a little bit about like the sex robot and stuff like that, but I like that we weren't like super focused on Spuffy other than like maybe 518. We really kind of took a little bit of a break from it, and I think we created a bond in between them, but I think it wasn't super focused on the romance. It was more about the trust. It was more about like a different kind of love being formed, some sort of relationship there. To me, what really shocks me about Spuffy right now is like I said, trust. The level of trust that Buffy has on Spike is not something that I would have imagined, because I don't think I trusted Spike. The only reason that I trust Spike as much as I do right now is because Buffy trusts him and I trust Buffy with my life. So if she trusts Spike, I know that she's right. But in general, I feel like the fact that she was using him as a babysitter, the fact that she was calling him into, you know, their RV and stuff like that, like she really needed him in ways that I didn't think she was going to, and had complete faith in him to take care of the things that matter the most to her, like Dawn and Joyce, you know? So I think it was quite interesting to see that even though he is a soulless vampire, Buffy is still able to trust him completely. I don't know, like I still cannot get over that. And I feel like that's why Buffy has a bunch of question marks in my head. And that's why I felt like maybe she was having some feelings back for him. Because like, how do you explain that trust? How do you explain how this happened to her? You know, and I think that mostly the doubts that I've been having about Buffy are like, is Buffy feeling it yet or not? Because obviously we know that Spike is. And I think that there were moments where I thought that Buffy was feeling it back, but like didn't actually want to go there. And then there are other moments where I'm like, oh no, she definitely is starting to see him as a friend, but hasn't gone romance. And I still don't know how I feel. I feel like I could be convinced of either point of view. You know what I mean? Like talking to you guys, I feel like there are definitely people who could probably convince me that like she already has feelings and doesn't want to act on them. Whereas I feel like there are other people who can definitely convince me that she doesn't have the feelings yet. But I do think that she is going to reciprocate those feelings on season 6, you know, because I have heard of Spuffy, so I knew that they happened, but I don't know like to what extent. So of course, I feel like this could be it for Spuffy in that sense, but I feel like there's more just based off what I'm seeing, you know. There's got to be more. I'd say, yeah, there's more. There's more coming for them, and I'm really excited. That's one of the relationships that I'm most curious to explore in season 6 right now. I think would probably have to be Spuffy and maybe Buffy and Dawn, because I'm curious to see how they're going to change even more, given not just losing Joyce, but now having lost Buffy and then Buffy maybe coming back. Like, how are they going to get through all of that? And who's going to take care of Dawn now that Buffy is not here? Is this when Giles is finally going to step up? See, I would think so, but now I'm starting to think maybe it's going to be Willow. Maybe Willow's going to have to, like, you know, take Dawn under her arms and, like, take care of her for right now. God, I hadn't even super thought about that so much. Okay. Ooh, okay. I'm going to leave this for prediction time. because I think I had written something about Dawn and Willow. I'll revisit in a moment. Okay, what relationship can we talk about next? I mean, I wrote about just the core three, and I felt like, yeah. I said drifting away from the core four because of Tara and Anya, and I think I already talked about this. Yeah, I do think that it's starting to become more of like a group, which I appreciate. I already talked about Buffy and Riley. Should we talk about Riley and Xander? Wait, did I go through all of the Buffys? Actually, maybe I should finish all the Buffy relationships. Are there any other Buffy relationships? Yes, there are. Buffy and Willow. Buffy and Willow. This was a great season for Buffy and Willow. They're one of my favorite friendships of the group, of the show. I think that, like I said, it was great to see Willow step up to help Buffy like this. I love seeing her go into Buffy's mind and like talk her through this, get her through this mental breakdown. I love seeing her step up to like help it out when her friend is like incapacitated. Is that a word, or am I just translating from Portuguese right now? I don't know. But anyways, wow. This is bad. I'm going into accents territory. Don't ever let me speak this much. It's getting bad. Okay, unfiltered Domi is bad. Okay, what did I write about them? I said that they felt closer than Buffy and Xander, and I think that's kind of true. I mean, I still feel like Xander is extremely close to all of them, but I do feel that Buffy and Willow did feel like they had a little bit of a tighter connection this season than Buffy and Xander did. I still think that Xander and Willow have a very tight connection, but I don't think we saw too much of Buffy and Xander. I mean, I think of like their scene in Family, for example, but overall, maybe it's just because of the end of the season and seeing Buffy stand up, seeing Willow stand up for Buffy this way really stands out to me. But overall, really enjoyed, like, you know, seeing Buffy, seeing Willow trying to get her shit together so that she can help her friend also in the body, you know, stuff like that. I think it was a strong season for them, and I think, you know, seeing Buffy trying to be so open and like liking Tara even though they have nothing in common and those kind of things, yeah, I think there's a lot of love there. What other Buffy relationship is there to talk about? Oh yeah, Buffy and Giles. I mean, their relationship is my favorite, just one of my favorites as well. Just, you know, it was in the first episode, right? Maybe that was a really redeeming quality of Buffy versus Dracula, where Buffy asks him to like sort of be her watcher again. I think that they have created such a special bond, and I really genuinely love it. Like I said, I loved seeing them like stand up against the council for each other. I think that they've really grown to love and trust each other to make their own decisions. Like, I like that Giles is not as pushy anymore, you know, because he definitely felt like he was being a helicopter parent in the first season, similar to Joyce. Like, everybody felt like they were telling Buffy what to do, and I like that, like, he doesn't have to tell her what to do anymore. He can just let her do things and, like, of course try and guide her here and there, but he's not, like, that adamant about it anymore. Like I said, I only wish that he was in the specific moments of like Buffy dropping off from college, for example. But overall, I really like that he's giving her space to grow and come into her own decisions and stuff like that. And, you know, he was like a crucial part of like researching, and like he's always doing stuff, even if he's letting her sort of take charge a bit more than usual. So that relationship, I feel like any moments in between them, it just really moves me, because I think they have such a beautiful, special bond that was created. And of course, I think Giles has bonded with the other, I want to say kids as well. But, you know, the parents might lie and say that they don't have a favorite, but every parent has a favorite. And Giles, I know Buffy's your favorite, like, for sure. They just have something so special about them. And I think that, like, you know, I think of, for example, I think during Family, when they were being attacked by the clown monsters, which are thankfully not Tara's family, he was very protective over Dawn. I think he was like trying to find a place for her to hide and stuff like that. So I just think about like how much, I think so much of that is because he cares for Buffy. He also created this bond with her sister because of that. I love them. I hope we get to see more of Buffy and Giles forever, you know. Now I'm thinking of like that scene in Spiral where he's pretty much just telling her he's proud of her or whatever. They're just so cute. I love them. Love them forever. Anyways, I want to move into Xander relationships, which of course means I have to start with Anya. Um, I feel like the payoff of having them get engaged in the finale was the best possible thing that could have happened to us. I think that like in such a sad episode, I loved being able to have this one moment of true, genuine like happiness. I felt so overwhelmed. Like it just came as such a shock. I probably shouldn't have because I feel like it probably shouldn't have because I feel like it makes sense given where they were going. I feel like they had even talked about kids and stuff like that. So we knew that they were getting really serious. But it was great to see that they also knew how serious it was getting. And it was just so cute. And I was just wondering, like, how long has he been planning this? How long has he been waiting for the right moment? Was he waiting for them to defeat Glory? Has he known this all along? Like, I don't know. It's just so cute, and I love them, and I love all the like progress they've made with like moving in with each other, and it's going so well. Like we don't really get to see them argue or anything like that. They're really just like progressing. They're not, staying in the same place. They're like growing, and they're growing together. And I just think it's so sweet. I like how Xander and Anya seem to have like their own little language. Like they understand each other so well. Xander's sort of like coaching her through life, I want to say, being like, don't say that, babe, stuff like that, And just overall, I feel like when nobody understands Anya, Xander does. So I love them. I think I did not expect them to be a couple that I would be so invested on, but I absolutely am. I love them. I love them. What other relationships did Xander have? I was going to talk about like, it's funny because I feel like Xander and Giles in the last season are what Giles and Anya feel like this season of like helping each other out in regards to sort of like in the job, I want to say, because I think that Anya and Xander created, Anya and Giles sort of created this new bond now that they're working together. And I feel like Anya bugs the living shit out of Giles, but Giles loves her so much. And I think that that's exactly how he feels about Xander. He's like, loves him, but he's like, a kid that definitely annoys him sometimes. So I think it's sweet that there are like, I feel like some parallels with that. But overall, I do think it's quite interesting to have Xander and, oh my god, why do I keep going back to Xander? I mean, to have Anya and Giles have this bond because they are like the oldest people in the show, right? Because, Giles is sort of like the grown up, and Anya is 1,000-year-old demon. I don't know how old she actually is, but I know that she's old, and so I feel like she has all that like life experience, even if it like doesn't necessarily apply in the day to day. Sorry, I have to drink water again. Like even though she might not know like the basics of like this world, she still has all the like life experience of having lived so many years. So I think it would make sense to pair those two up. And I love that Anya like found her passion for like capitalism and working. Okay. I mean, I wish you would have picked another passion other than capitalism, but I love Anya so much that I will let her have it and I will be happy for her. I feel like Riley and Xander also created a bit of a bond, which I thought was like necessary and important, because I feel like Xander has sort of always been opposed to Buffy's love interest a little bit, and I think of like his feelings towards Angel, and so I like that he was able to be friends with Riley, because to me it kind of shows that he's completely moved on from Buffy romantically. And so even though I don't necessarily agree with what he was saying on 510, because he ended up making Buffy go after Riley, I still love the points that he was bringing up. I like that he was like standing up for Riley a bit, because that's not the point of view that I would have imagined. And I like that like Buffy was seeing things one way, and I like that he was there to like make her see things in a different manner. And like, he had Anya waiting for him, and he still thought it was more important to get through to Buffy and make sure that like she was seeing things from like outside perspective of both point of views. I'm really trying to get through my bullet points as quickly as I can, because I can feel my throat killing me right now. I'm already starting to cough because I've spoken for so long, so I'm really going to try and wrap this up as quickly as I can. We're almost done with character relationships. Okay. I also wrote down about Dawn and Spike, because I feel like they had such a fun friendship that I would have like never expected, like never thought that they would like actually be having a relationship, but they really matched well. I like that, what Spike says about Buffy is that she always treated him as like a man. And, this is what I think Dawn likes about Spike, is that he always treats her like a woman. like she's not a child. He really respects her. And so I think it makes sense. And I really like how Spike is always there for Dawn. And I like that, like, there's still a part of him that's like fucking up and like, you know, probably should have created some more boundaries of like, no, we should not try and raise your mom from the dead. But at the same time, he just wants to help her and wants her to feel good. And I like that he's not completely blinded by what he feels for Buffy, you know, because, you know, Dawn was saying like, oh, you're just doing this to like, you know, get in my sister's pants or whatever. But I like that he was like, no, if Buffy finds out, I'm actually fucked. And I was like, that's so true. He's really just doing it because he loves Dawn and cares for Dawn. So I like that he's being able to create relationships with other people that are not just Buffy. Because then you can see that it's not just about Buffy. It's about him really creating feelings and getting to like people. And I think that other than Buffy, well, I think he loves Buffy, but I think if there's one person that Spike likes the most, it would have to be Dawn. I think so. And this is also, you know, Joyce. Always fun to get to see him with Joyce, kind of. But anyways, what other relationship? Anya and Tara, which for some reason I wrote twice in my notes. I literally wrote Tara/Anya, and then my last bullet point is Anya/Tara. I mean, I guess I was really excited about them. I love how we got to see them talk for a little bit. I think it was something about like computers or whatever. I want to see them bond as like, you know, the love interests who are like part of the squad but are like newer to the squad. I want to see that bond being explored more and more because I feel like they're such great characters and I feel like they're very different people, which is why I feel like they would really be a really interesting like, I don't want to say couple, but just like interesting duo to like explore and like discuss and be friends. I want to see more of them because I feel like they were really fun. I'd say like I feel like my wishes for the last season was that they became more part of the gang, and I feel like now that they are, I want to see them become like actual really good friends within each other as well. We shall see. I feel like they got all the reasons to bond over this, so we shall see. What else do I have? I mean, for Harmony and Spike, I just put I wanted to like finish, which is very true, and I think that's exactly how I feel. I think I'm very done with that storyline, and I'm glad that it seems to be done, but I feel like a relationship that I had to like just brush upon and say like not nice, probably my least favorite relationship of the show, and I'm just ready to have it all over, which I think it is. And then last but not least, I always have to leave my Tillo to the end. You guys know me. I get super caught up when I start talking about them because I love them. It's so hard, like now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like I want to say this for every relationship, but they probably are my favorite relationship in the show. So sorry, Giles and Jenny. Sorry, Kalinda Lilies. But you know, I have such a soft spot for them. I feel like this season was really interesting for them because I'm really thankful that it sort of changed things up a little in the second half of the season. Not that I wasn't liking it in the beginning. I mean, obviously Family was in the beginning of the season and I'm obsessed with that episode and you guys know it. But I feel like they were in a very like stagnant. I still don't know if I'm using this word right. Everything's going away from me because I'm so tired and I apologize. But honestly, I'm not used to filming on Sundays. Usually this is my rest day. So my body is used to being asleep on Sundays. So this is why I am probably even worse at talking than usual. But anyways, it felt like they were just in a very, like they were not making too much changes and not much character progress. They were sort of just like being together and that was kind of that. And so I feel like somewhere along the way, I really think that like their dynamics changed a little bit. So I was really glad for that because even though it was not like fun to see them like have different opinions and like argue, like I said, I'm kind of all about the angst. And a part of me, I think really kind of digged it a little where I was like, you know, I feel like any relationship, people can have different opinions. And as long as like they can understand each other's opinions and come back to each other, you know, I mean, obviously it can't be like fundamentally different opinions. I mean, obviously, but I mean that like if you're having small little discussions, it's something that you can definitely get through and that's just going to make you stronger. And I liked seeing a little bit of that when it comes to them and sort of a little bit of their discussions there. God, I hate saying this. And then also just having to see Willow step up and take care of Tara in such a beautiful way, I think was so sweet. I mean, obviously that storyline is very mean, but I think I can really appreciate it now that I know that Tara's okay, because I can see how hard it was for Willow to be able to deal with all of this, but she didn't like pass it along to anybody. She didn't like, I don't know, called Tara's parents and, and be like, well, you can take your daughter now. She's kind of fucked up. Or like, I don't know. She like never gave up on Tara. Even when they knew that there was like not any hope, she didn't give up on her. She really did her research, took care of her. Even when Tara was like, being harsh, like slapping her, saying not nice things, Willow was there through, like, she really showed that she was there through thick and thin. And I feel like that's really going to strengthen their relationship. And, I had talked about so much of their relationship felt like their love for each other that didn't need to be described through words. And I feel like that, that entire storyline, the end of season 5, I feel like really describes that because, I talked about how they didn't need to speak in hush. They just kind of felt things. And I think that, Willow wasn't really able to communicate with Tara through words in the second half of the season, but I think that all of her actions and I think that all of her love were definitely coming through. And so I'm just really, really glad that we have Tara back because this means that we can definitely explore an interesting story for them. I wonder if they are going to talk about like that final discussion that they had because it felt like there were definitely some points to like be brought up. I'm not going to talk about the discussion specifically because I already did that in my tough love video, but I would like to see them discuss it. I don't want them to like just go through it and be like, yeah, we're totally fine now. I kind of want to be able to see them go back to that and like talk things over so that there is no conflict and so that everything is resolved. But overall, Tara and Willow, you guys are the absolute cutest and I love them. And I'm so glad that we had their first kiss this season. That felt big, in so many moments. I feel like it would be easier for them not to lean into like so much of like the romancy stuff, but I think that they really have been surprising me the whole time. And this season was just a huge, great, lovely surprise when it comes to that. Even though it was like at the worst moment possible, but I am just so glad it happened. I guess it was kind of fun to see them have like a few like ups and downs, I want to say. But anyways, I think that's pretty much it for character relationships. So now we're going to start getting into a little bit more of like prediction territory. I want to talk about just like my overall wishes for the next season, which is going to lead me into the final part of this video. No, I still have to do the Q&A. Oh, actually, I think I might have to pause this because I have somewhere to be right now and I was really hoping I was going to be able to finish this video before, but I think I might have to leave, go do what I have to do, and then when I come back home, I might go into my final predictions, and then Q&A as well, because I think I chose 5 questions from YouTube that I'm going to answer, so I guess I'm gonna have to go and do that, and I'll be right back, and I'll see you guys soon. Hi friends, I am back to do the Q&A part of the video and go into my season 6 predictions. I've never actually had to leave mid-video, but I genuinely thought I would be done with this before I had to leave to like just do something that I had planned, and so I did not, so I had to leave. But I'm back now. I do have to try, and I'm gonna try my best. I know I'm going to fail, but I'm going to try my best to be like as concise as possible because I still need to have lunch. It's like 4 p.m. I haven't eaten yet today, so I need to still like have lunch and send out work emails before I go out tonight. So I gotta just get on it. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna be so responsible. I hope I don't sound out of breath. I've been like all over the place. I want to start with a Q&A. I put a thing on my community tab where people could send in season 5 questions, and I picked my 5 favorite questions to answer just because I thought that they brought like interesting points that I wanted to talk about, I guess. So the first question is from SC Sanchez, which is, would you have been content with the season 5 if it had been the final season and the gift the final episode of the series? Sorry, I don't know why I stopped mid-sentence, but I thought this was such a great question because I have such strong feelings about this. I know that as soon as I posted my reaction, people were telling me about this, about how there was a scare that this was the last season, stuff like that. I would have not been happy with this. I would have actually been really, really pissed off. I'm not gonna lie. So if this is a foreshadowing to how season 7 ends, then I'm not gonna want to watch that finale. I don't know if I feel like this is just me, but I try. Wow, can you not be so loud right now? I'm trying to record. Thank you so much. These freaking cars. I try and have a positive outlook on life and just be not so much of a pessimist. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I genuinely try. And I feel with TV shows, I like that outlook. I don't like TV shows to end on a sad note where everybody's dead, because I'm well, what's the point? If you're not going to see this character anymore, I would rather have them live a healthy, happy life in my imagination than just ruin any possibility I would have of imagining their future, if this makes sense. So to me, I'm really hoping that whenever Buffy does end, which I guess now we're like 2 seasons away, which feels very close and very far, and I just don't like the thought of that. I do hope they leave somewhat of an open ending where I can still, have dreams for these characters, because death just feels a little bit too permanent, if that makes sense. So in all honesty, I really love this finale as a season 5 finale, because I think, like I said, it wraps up the season super well. I think it's mind-blowing. I think it's big, huge stuff, but I don't like the thought of it being a season 7, like, forever finale, because I think it's too permanent, and I would not have Buffy die without knowing that she's coming back. So those are my thoughts on that. Okay, the next question that I got was from Temp Sim. How would you rank the big bads? The Master, Angelus, the Mayor, Adam. He counts, right? Yeah, I think he does. And Glorificus. The worst part is that I know that I answered this in my Q&A video, and I can't remember exactly what I said, which is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to try and rank them, and it might be a little bit different. But I'd say that, like, pretty much, I would say Angelus is top. Like, nothing beats Angelus for me. He just has to be at the top of my list. I feel like it was such a genius twist and just, like, so perverted that, like, I am not sure anything will ever be able to beat Angelus for me. It was the sheer betrayal of it, and I hate to say it, but I love it. So Angelus, and then I think I would probably go with Glory. And then I would have to go with maybe the Master, the Mayor, and Adam. Obviously, Adam, like, lacks a bit in character development and just, like, overall, like what I was saying about how Glory had her scenes and we got to see a lot of her interacting with the minions and stuff like that. I don't think we saw many scenes of Adam just, like, being Adam and talking to other people and being intriguing. I feel like the idea behind him is quite possibly one of the most interesting ones, but I don't think the execution was the best, so that's why I think Adam would rank lowest. And then I just love the Master because he has, like, an emotional value to me. I think that he is so season 1, like, the Master. Like, I am attached to him just because it gives me all the season 1 vibes. And I think he had one of the best, like, the finale, season 1 finale is, like, my second favorite finale, I guess, because I think The Gift is my new favorite finale. So I would say the Master goes after Glory. And then I would just go with the Mayor, because I feel like the Mayor, he was a cool dude, but he creeped me out a little. I think that Faith as a big bad, then we're talking. But I feel like the Mayor, I was like, I don't understand why he's grooming this Faith little child. Something just felt so off with that relationship. And it was really interesting and really cool. But I feel like the Master and the others were, like, more intriguing for me personally. So I think that would have to be my ranking. This question is from Dog Girl. I'm not saying this right. I'm probably not saying any of these names right, so please forgive me, but, like, we're working with what we can. This question was, if you had to kill off another character instead of Joyce from the main cast, who would it be and why? And I saw this question, and of course my gut instinct should probably have been to, like, I'm not gonna answer this. This is horrible. But I was like, oh yes, I'm gonna answer it. And I think I sent a photo to Lexi, and I was like, look at this freaking question. How dare they? Except I was like, this is a great question. Because, and when you say main cast, I feel like I'm pretty much thinking of the people in the intro, and I would say, I think Joyce and Tara were the only, like, fractional series regulars, I would say, like, the people who weren't in the intro but who were still in most-ish episodes, or at least talked about. I mean, Tara's obviously off, like, the equation, so we pretty much just have the people in the intro. And then, again, the core 4 is completely out of the equation. Like, Buffy, Xander, Giles, and Willow, not even a question. Which I think, if I'm not mistaken, just leaves me with, well, does Riley count? Because if Riley counts, bye. I don't even have to think about it. But I feel like that's a little bit too easy. So I think that the 2 people that would be left are Anya and Spike, right? And I think if you know me, you probably know where I'm going with this. I don't think I would be able to kill Anya. I think Spike is awesome, don't get me wrong. He's hilarious. I'm really excited for Spuffy. But I do think that, like, I would not be willing to sacrifice any other character. Not that I would be willing to sacrifice Spike, but I think that like out of all the other characters, I think he is the one that I would have to go with, and I feel bad for saying it, but the other ones are just like I don't want to say they're better, but like anyways, I think it would have to be Spike or Riley. I mean, if Riley counts, I'm definitely taking that easy route. Bye-bye. Okay. And then Polly 00, how many zeros is that? Let me zoom in. 00001 says, what would you sum up? They have like 3 questions and I can't remember. I took a screenshot and I just circled it, so now I don't know which question I actually meant to answer, so I guess I'm just going to answer all of them because I don't want to like read through them and decide. So how would you sum up, what would you sum up as the theme of season 5? I think I talked about this. I think it's definitely about family. I think it's about maturing. I think it's about like growing up and finally getting to live life, I would say. And I guess like for the later end of the season, I think the theme would definitely have to go into like just the grief aspect of things. But I would say overall, kind of like a coming of age story, like for season 5, if that makes sense. And then they also asked, how would you rank season 5 compared to the previous seasons? Top of my list, number 1. Not exactly sure what comes after season 5 because I have such a hard time picking in between seasons 2, 3, and 4. But season 5 definitely goes on top. And then the last question, what character had the best journey this season? Well, the last question from Polly, I guess. Because I still picked one more. Oh god. Which character had the best journey? Character had the best I might have to go with Buffy, man. I know that like I'm obviously biased for Buffy, and I know that, like, I'm probably not being fair to the other characters who I'm sure had a lot of character development. I mean, I think Giles really grew by having the magic box. I think that was really big for him. But I think Buffy stepping up and just, like, everything that she did this season, she felt so much more grown up. I remember that, like, I think it was, like, the Hulu promo picture for Buffy or something. I think is a picture of her in the later seasons. And I remember texting it to my friend and being like, and I mean no offense by this, I was like, look at how old she looks. Like, I'm not used to this. I'm used to seeing her, like, as a high schooler, you know? And then my friend was like, oh, that's so interesting that, like, you can't, like, I guess see her this old. And I was like, I cannot imagine it in a way. And then right now, after watching this season, I feel like I'm like, oh, this is the Buffy. Like, this is the version of Buffy that she's always sort of meant to be. And it was just about her getting there. So I think that was, like, a nice sort of payoff for all of that. And then the final question was, what was your favorite episode this season? Well, top 3. And they said, already know family is one, which is so true. And then favorite episode of the series till now, top 3. I think that I already answered this in my Patreon Q&A, but I was like, I might as well answer it here too. Definitely family is one of them. And then I was having a hard time deciding the other ones because I was in doubt. I mean, family and forever. No, I mean, yes, but no. I meant to say family and the body are definitely my 2 favorites, I would say. And then for number 3, I feel like I was tied in between Forever and The Weight of the World. Even though I also think Spiral is like literally a lesson in screenwriting and incredible, I feel like The Weight of the World really got to me personally. So I would have to go with, I know that those are 4, but it's really hard to pick. But maybe Forever. Maybe The Body Forever and family. Yeah. And then favorite episode of this series. And then see if it's like my, oh god, I just saw light. If it's like my personal favorites of like episodes that I like to rewatch, it would have to be New Moon Rising, Family, and possibly Hush. I think that was a great one. Not that I've rewatched it since, but I just think it's a great one. Like a fun one. If I have to go with like the best, objectively best, I would have to go with The Body. Probably I Will Remember You. And I'm thinking, should I say Passion? No, I think I would have to go with Hush. I think I would have to go with Hush too. I think those were 3 of like the most, yeah, I'm happy with that choice. I think Hush was like just amazing. But also I just realized that I didn't put The Gift in either one of my lists, and that just feels wrong. The Gift is definitely a top episode for me. Maybe it would be one of my top 3 of this season, together with The Body and Family. I'd have to say that. Oh god, so hard. Anyways, that was the Q&A. Just thought I would give you guys some chance to answer some stuff, to ask some stuff. I mean, I'm answering. Okay. So now we get to do the fun part, and we get to head into like the season 6 predictions, which I think is mostly what you guys are excited about. I think based on like, I don't know, the commentaries that I usually get from these videos, just because it's probably gonna be funny to see me like screw things up, obviously. So I made a list of like overall wishes for the season before I go into like what I actually think might happen or like crazy ass predictions. And I think my overall wishes were that Buffy catches a break, that nothing screws up Xander and Anya's like character progress and like relationship. I feel like I did get a little bit worried because whenever anything seems too good in this show, I'm like, because you know they've already got me like a few times, and even though I know that I shouldn't fall for these things anymore, like I fell for Joyce. I fully fell for her until like I was like, oh, this is just a setup. But it was too late. Oops. So I'm trying not to be unprepared for what might happen to Xander and Anya. So I'm just like paying attention to them and I'm hoping that they're fine. And then I said Tara and Willow more loving angst. I kind of dig not like arguments, but I kind of like these like conversations and different points of view. So I hope that they can still find ways to be like intriguing and entertaining and not necessarily fight, but I would love to see a little bit of like some discussions in between them that they may not see the same, like they may not have the same perspective. And then I said I want sort of Giles to step up to help Buffy and Dawn a little bit more. I mean, I was just thinking about this, I guess, in the sense of who's going to take care of Dawn now that Buffy's not here. Somebody's going to have to step up. And I feel like that's probably going to be either Giles or Willow. Like I said, I think I was leaning towards Willow more, but I think personally I would like it to be Giles a little bit more. So we will see. And then I also wrote something about like just Dawn getting a life outside of being a key. I think that's going to have to be something that we're going to have to discuss. I feel like she's obviously very shaken up about this discovery of being a key, and you know, I think she made her entire sort of existence revolve around that because of course it kind of like did. And so now I think we're gonna have to talk about like, oh, now that she's not the key anymore and she's just a regular teenager, where do we go from here? And like I think I was talking about this, the reason that I wanted Dawn to survive season 5, like a big part of it, other than, you know, I like Dawn and I don't want Buffy to be in pain, was that I was curious to see how they were going to make her fit in. Because she's such like a character-specific season that it's hard to be able to see her past that, right? So I'm curious to see what they're going to try and do. I wonder if we're going to be seeing a little bit more of Dawn in high school. I feel like that's the only thing that I can think that would make us like explore Dawn a little bit more, is either that or another prediction that I'm going to be talking about in a minute, but that has something to do with witchcraft maybe. We shall see. And then what else did I say? Yeah, I just said Buffy processing her trauma, like going to therapy. I think that like regardless of what happens in the beginning of this next season, the end of season 5 is one collective big trauma for Buffy that I think she's going to have to unpack. So I know that the last time she went to therapy, like her therapist might have been killed, and I remember it was something not super great, but like I think we might have to give that another try, Buffandra. I would like to see it. I want to be able to see her process these feelings instead of like bottling them up all inside, which I'm scared because it's sort of like her default. So we shall see. What else? Oh, I put Tara moves up to the intro and Buffy and Tara are BFFs. And now I feel like this is wishful thinking, but I feel like they really set up a small friendship in between Buffy and Tara there, especially in the body and especially in, I think it was in Triangle, right? When they're talking after class or something. And I'm like, oh, I see a vision here. I see it. And they're best friends in my head. So now I need it to translate from my head to the screen. And I want to see more of Buffy and Tara. Like, as much as I love seeing Willow and Tara, I also would love to explore that relationship. Probably almost just as much. Maybe, possibly. I regret saying it, but just a lot is what I was going for. And, you know, Tara being in the intro, I'm not quite sure how that would work because we haven't really lost anyone other than like Buffy. And I swear to God, they would never take Buffy away from the intro because I would actually physically, like, I would go insane, but they're not going to do that. So I don't know how they would make her fit into the intro. I don't want us to have to lose anyone to put her there, but I want her there. Amber Benson, I will fight for you. We will get you to that intro. I believe in you so much. Maybe not in the beginning of season 6, but maybe, you know what? If I have to kill some bitches to get you on the intro, maybe I would. Probably wouldn't. Right? I shouldn't. Okay, anyways, um and then I also put Amy Adams Come Back to Me, which just yeah. I know that she was a terrible character and she was like mean to Tara, but like I love Amy Adams so much that like I don't care. Bring her back, even if it's like she's fucking shit up. I don't care. I want to see Amy Adams and Buffy again. She was the coolest cousin ever. I mean, horrible, but coolest. Anyways, so now we can actually go into, oh my god, my season 6 predictions. So this might get a little bit more specific. I don't think I have great predictions. All of these were done yesterday. I didn't give them like that much thought. This was just me sitting and thinking, where do I think they could take the story? So, and I have such terrible memory that I know that I wrote this yesterday and I still don't know what I wrote. So let me go through it. I said we get Buffy back from like an Angel Anne type like hell dimension, which I think is where this storyline is going. I mean, like I said, I don't think Buffy can like stay dead forever. That's just not feasible. And I think if she was, but that's the thing though. I don't know if we're going down this like hell dimension thing or if we're going to a Buffy is actually dead route. I think if we go down a Buffy is actually dead route and we need to like actually bring her back, then I have a very specific vision for that, and that involves Willow and Tara and witchcraft. Because like I said, I do think they set up this whole idea of witchcraft can technically bring people back from the dead, even though you shouldn't use it. And so I think Willow is going to be the one who would do some sort of witchcraft to bring Buffy back. And then my questions are, would Tara actually help her? Because I know Tara was really, really against it, but at the same time, I could understand Tara saying fuck the consequences, it's Buffy, but I could also see Tara being very level-headed and not wanting to help Willow with this, and maybe Willow not even talking to Tara about this because she knows that she wouldn't. And so this is where I see Dawn maybe possibly, quite possibly maybe fitting into the story. I could totally see Willow turning to Dawn for help to do some witchcraft to bring Buffy back, because Dawn would also, just like Willow, be like, fuck the consequences, we're doing this. And I've always sort of felt some witchy-ish vibes from Dawn, just because like she was really into it, I guess. Like she seemed really intrigued by it from the start. She seemed intrigued by it from Tara and Willow. So maybe that. But if we're going down like a hell dimension, then maybe we don't have to go like that dark into witchcraft. But I feel like witchcraft has got to fit into the story, and then I wonder if from that they can raise our season 6 big bad, like whatever they have to do, you know, because we were talking about the consequences, and I keep going back to Restless, right? And I keep going back to Giles, and please forgive me for what I'm about to do, but he goes like, you know, the spell we did with Buffy might have released some evil, I want to sing it so bad, some primal evil, whatever. I'm not going to sing, but I keep remembering Giles' song, and I'm like, oh, so was Glory, and I kind of want to say correct me if I'm right, but I also don't know if I want to know if I'm right, but I think they meant to imply that Glory was possibly raised because of the spell that they did to release Adam, to kill Adam. And so this made me think, oh, does that mean, like, if this defeating season 4 Big Bad caused season 5 Big Bad, does that mean that, like, you know, solving season 5 big problem, aka Buffy dying, would cause season 6 Big Bad? So I don't know what kind of creatures that they would need to raise to like help them in this process of getting Buffy back from the dead, but I'm sure that it's like really way into dark like magic, which we have been leaning into, and which I feel like I should probably be kind of scared about, but I'm like, let's go, sounds fun, sounds powerful, let's test those boundaries, and then like when we know them, then I guess we can back off. But I do think that like this has been the natural progression of the story, is that we have to start getting into even more serious and cool stuff. So I guess that's where I'm sort of seeing all of this going. I think like timing wise, I guess like the fact that we saw Willow on the Angel season 2 finale means that we're not going to be following the exact moment after Buffy's death. It's not going to be like the body type situation where we start right where we left off. Unless we start going into like flashbacks, which I could also see them doing. But I think I'm kind of relieved, because I think that if they did, that would be very hard and painful. But I also don't know how much of like a time jump they're planning on doing here. I don't know how long Angel was in Pylea for. Maybe time works differently there. Maybe, Willow needed some time to go talk to him. Like, I have no idea how long it's been since Buffy. So I would be curious to see how they're going to be dealing with time, because grief is like different. Each stage of grief is different. We've talked about like different ones through Joyce and stuff, and so I'd be curious to see if they're going to be leaning into any sort of time jumps, or if we're going to sort of be like, Buffy just died like yesterday and now we're dealing with it. So I would say I'm curious about that, but I'm more like stressed out about that. But at least I feel like Willow's appearance shows me that we're not going to be diving straight into like the depression. And I don't think that we are going to be getting Buffy back immediately. I kind of think that at least for 601, I think 601 might be, and this feels so weird to say, I think it might be an episode without Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think that they could pull this off, focusing on just the squad, showing us the consequences of the actions. I could see Buffy taking a whole episode off, and then we start dealing after that. But I'm not quite sure how long it could take them to get them back, but I don't necessarily know if this is going to be something super quick. Because I feel like the quicker it is, the more like, I don't want to say irrelevant her death sounds, but the more like fixable it all will be. So the longer that they keep her dead, I feel like the more emotional and like hard this can all be. So that's why I don't think they're bringing her back immediately. But we shall see. All I know is they're going to have to bring her back somehow, I think. And it's also going to be interesting to see how the squad is going to have to cope, like, without Buffy. Because every time anything happens, and this was reminding me so much while I was watching 509, and they were, like, trying to give Buffy some space to, like, be with her mom or whatever. Anything that happened, they were like, oh, I want to call Buffy. I want to talk to Buffy. What would Buffy do? And I think it's going to be so hard to have to, like, just live with the voice of what would Buffy do without actually being able to consult Buffy. Like, she's the first person that I would want to be able to consult and be like, how do we bring this person back from the dead? Except she is the one who we need to consult about. So I think it's definitely going to be really hard to see the squad having to do that. But I think it's also going to be a great insight into how all of them can step up, how all of them can get the job done, even when Buffy's not there. I feel like it's going to be really a chance for the squad to prove themselves, while Sarah Michelle Gellar hopefully takes a rightful rest after carrying season 5 on her back. In regards to like the general season like vibe of the season, I think I already talked about this, so I don't want to repeat myself, but I do think we're still going to keep that same sort of like dark, sad, a little bit of a depressing vibe, I want to say, because I think once we made that switch, it's going to be very hard to switch back. So I think those are like the vibes that I'm expecting from season 6. In regards to storylines, I think we're definitely going to explore Buffy for reals. So I feel like I'm just excited. I was thinking, am I like a little bit scared for that? But I don't think I am. I really just think I'm curious and excited to see how that's going to progress. They've been teasing it for so long that I'm like, okay, just do it. Do it. I think I am ready for it. I do think I might need a little bit more time just to like process everything that happened in the end of season 5 before we like jump into Buffy. But there was a whole moment there, I would say like in Crush, I have never been more ready for Buffy than I was in that episode. And I guess like in the beginning of I was made to love you. I was going to say I will always remember you again. Bangel, bye. We're talking about Buffy. So I do think we're going to be developing that relationship, and I wonder how much of it is going to be Spike bonding with the group first and then bonding to Buffy. I feel like, for example, right now the fact that Buffy's gone could be the perfect excuse for Squad to, for Spike to actually get close to the group without it being Buffy, because I feel like Buffy's the one who's really bringing him in right now and who's saying we can trust him, stuff like that. So I don't think that the squad has like fully bought him, but I think that like if he's proving himself and trying to get Buffy back, and he I think would also be one that could totally join Dawn and Willow in doing whatever it takes to bring Buffy back. Honestly, I think Giles would too, and Xander. The only person that I could see being resistant towards this is Tara. So maybe they're all just going to go behind her back. But what I was trying to go for is that I think Spike would do anything. And I think that like him showing how badly he needs Buffy to come back might be what makes the group start taking him in. So I wonder if they're going to be able to create a little bit of some bond while Buffy is, So curious to see how Spike will be by the end of the season? Like, is he going to be close with them? Is he going to be not close to them? You know what I mean? Like, I feel, I'm trying to think. Do I think that he's going to start dating Buffy and then he's going to get close to the squad, or do I think he's going to start getting close to the squad and then date Buffy? It's like the chicken or the egg. What came first? I think he's going to get close to the squad and then he's going to start dating Buffy and then he's going to start getting like even closer maybe. But I think that the squad's going to have to like accept him before Buffy can accept him as a love interest. So we'll see. But I am excited regardless. Whatever they do with that, I want to see it as soon as we're over the Buffy dead trauma. What else do I have? I mean, the stakes, like, in regards to, like, the tone of the season, I don't know how they're going to, like, raise the stakes more than they have this time. Because the fact that they connected the big bad to Buffy with it being Dawn and, like, you know, her being in danger the whole season, I don't know how they're going to do something, like, pull something like this off. I'm sure they'll find a way, but I think that the season 5 stakes might be really hard for them to reach. What else do I have? I put a, like, Anya gets her powers back, ? I'm honestly not sure, because this is something that I feel like I thought was they were leaning towards, and then now I'm like not sure anymore. But I just put it here as like a possible prediction that Anya would be back into demon form, and like, I don't know, would this mean good things for her? Would she be a good demon? Could she get lost along the way and become a little bit of a big bad? I don't know, but it could be an interesting story for her. Could be horrible. I talked about how Dawn is going to need a life. So, you know, just like seeing her in school, maybe seeing her with her friends. You know, I think that there was a moment in 5:17 where she talks about like how she feels like she's bad. Oh, could Dawn be Dawn could also be one of the big bads. Maybe she spirals after losing her sister or something like that. But, I mean, grief can make you do crazy shit. But I don't think so. I think she's too nice. And I feel like I just keep going back to the conversation she had with Spike where she's like, you know, bad things happen to me. I'm a bad person or whatever. And I'm like curious to see if would she embrace that badness? I don't think so. But I'm just curious to see her process all of this maybe. Yeah, now I'm like concerned with my own theories, I guess. Okay, I put Tara and Willow might grow to where Xander and Anya are, so like I guess just more kisses. I mean, I do think about the PDA because I think it is quite important, just for representation reasons, but also like I feel like we're just doing so well with all of that. But just in general, I feel like while Willow and Tara feel a little bit more like teenage romance, I think that Xander and Anya start definitely feeling like something a lot more serious. And so I wonder if, because Tara and Willow feel like they're a little bit in the honeymoon phase, and Xander and Anya feel like they're still in love, but I don't think they're in the honeymoon phase per se. And so it would be interesting to see their relationship progress to something a little bit more serious, you know? Because I don't think they've talked about like marriage and kids in the same way that Xander and Anya have. So I'd be very, very curious to see those talks with Tillo. And, you know, in regards to like Anya and Xander's wedding, I think that they're going to have to elope. I don't see any other way around it, just because I cannot imagine a wedding. I can't imagine a wedding in the Buffyverse. I feel like that's not the show that we're setting up, if that makes sense. I think it would be so feel-goody and happy, and like, unless the season 6 big bad bursts into that wedding, I don't think I can see a physical wedding happening in my head. But I can see Xander and Anya planning things a little, and then eventually just being like, I love you so much, I just want to like be your wife right now, and like they go and get married and like elope. And I think I could see something like that more than I would see like Anya with a white dress walking down the I can't see that. I cannot envision it for some reason. Maybe because they're also so young that it feels, I don't know, it feels kind of crazy to imagine. I don't know if it's because they're young or because like the show doesn't feel like it's setting up weddings. But anyways, I put Giles going down a dark era. I mean, I do think we are embracing different like sides of these characters, and I think that like Giles, there were like multiple moments this season, or like in the end of this season, I'm trying to remember the specific moments, other than him killing, you know, Ben/Glory, where he really showed that he will do what needs to be done, no matter the cost kind of thing. Like, he will do it for the greater good or whatever. And I feel like it felt kind of threatening. It felt like Giles was going down a little bit of a scary route that I would be very curious to see. What else? I put who will take care of Dawn, because we started talking about that. I didn't give this much thought, to be honest, but it did make me curious. Like, would Buffy's dad have to come back? I do think that this is something that I think might happen in the first episode, is that, like, they can't have Dawn, they need a legal guardian for her. Would the state of California track down Buffy's dad to let them know, like, hey, your daughter died, and now your other daughter is, oh yeah, your ex-wife died, and your daughter died, so now your other daughter needs somebody. Anyways, I keep going back and forth on this, but now I think I'm having a little bit of a stronger feeling now that Buffy died. I think we might be seeing Buffy's dad. I think he might be coming back. They showed us that the actor would come back when he showed up on the Buffy Spiral episode of 521. So I'm gonna go with yes, we shall be seeing her dad. And that might be really weird, because I'm sure the squad has, like, their own visions on how Dawn should be raised, or, like, maybe he wants to take her away, stuff like that, and Buffy's not going to be there to advocate for Dawn, so that's going to be hard. That could be really interesting, right? Okay, what else? So I put, like, just the spirit of the first Slayer and understanding Slayerism. Like, that whole Slayer theme, I still feel like I was expecting it to be a huge part of this season, and it wasn't, so I wonder if that could transfer on to season 6 instead. And these were things that I was talking about in my season 4 recap as season 5 predictions, and so I think that quite a few of my season 5 predictions, I'm like, maybe we can make them season 6 predictions, who knows. I just feel like talking about the essence of the spirit of the first Slayer and stuff like that just, like, really makes me feel like, reminds me of Restless, and I feel like that's why I think that a conversation like this and a storyline that follows this needs to happen, and also just because it's a great reason to bring back Faith, just saying. Talking about Faith, I did make a note. I don't know where it is, but I do remember making this note that I was thinking, how are they going to bring in a new character? Because I feel like with every season, they sort of, like, kind of have to bring in a new character. They have to do something fresh, something different. I mean, they don't have to, but, like, knowing Buffy, I think they probably will try and bring in a new character for the beginning of the next season, or at least, like, maybe a few episodes into it. And I was thinking, who could the character be? Because they're not so much in college right now. It would be weird to meet something. Like, how do you stumble across somebody? And then I was thinking, oh, never mind. I know this. I got this. It's gotta be another Slayer, right? Because now that Buffy's dead, they have to raise another one, right? Because that's how Kendra came to be, and that's how Faith came to be. So the next logical step is, if Kendra appeared when Buffy first died, is that we gotta get somebody else now that Buffy is dead again. So maybe another Slayer is going to be showing up in Sunnydale to, like, sort of take care of things while Buffy is, like, like I said, dead. So maybe that is literally the only logical explanation I could see to having a new character join the show. So there's that. Going back to, like, my sort of predictions of season 5, I also wrote, just Tara's mom, God, like, connections to the big bad. I think that, like, I forgot the name of the god, but I really thought that Tara's mom was, like, that big god that we were talking about, and I thought that Tara was going to be connected to it somehow. And I think maybe because I was a little bit worried that she was kind of sketchy because of, the spell that she didn't want to do. So I wonder if Tara could be directly connected to that. You know what I mean? That spirit. And I don't know if it has something to do with the spirit of the first Slayer. Maybe something to do with her mom. Maybe nothing. But, I've been talking about this idea, so I just wanted to put that out there. I put Xander and Spike, like, an interesting new dynamic. Like, I do think that, like, Xander started becoming friends with Riley in a way that I thought was really interesting, and I could see that happening with Spike now. Like, a new friendship, kind of. It would be so interesting considering how opposed he was to Spike, but I can definitely see them becoming a very interesting duo, and I kind of want to see that a bit. I put, like, maybe we're gonna have another Watchers Council involvement, I don't know if Giles is going to have to like go to the council to ask for help to bring Buffy back. I don't know if they can fit into that or if they can fit into something else, but I do think that they're, or maybe this could be season 7. I just feel like we're not done with the Watchers Council, and I could still see them doing another appearance or two in the show. And so I wonder what could take them to need the Watchers' help. I mean, right now seems like we do have a pretty big deal, or I don't know if they're going to come out and help with the big bad again. But I do think that it was so fun and interesting to see them because of the shift in dynamic that I want to be able to see them again. What else? Oh yeah, and then I wrote like 2 small things that I remembered while I was going through my notes for the rest of the season. As that Willow, there was a whole storyline of Willow and her headaches, which really freaks me out because I thought that this had something to do with Glory, like giving Joyce the headaches, and then she was also going after Willow, and I was like, we do not mess with Willow. But no, it seems like she was just having headaches. So now I'm like, okay, what were those headaches about? And then also, Dawn, I think she stole some earrings. When was it? I think it was in Forever, actually. And I don't know if those 2 things ever came up again, and I just like completely forgot about them or missed them. Those are 2 things that for some reason they were 2 sort of question marks that stayed in my head, where I was like, I don't know where they were going with this and if this was important, but maybe something to do with that. See, I don't see how this would fit into season 6, but I just said it. What else? I said Ethan must come back, and I am, yes. I mean, it was kind of upsetting to not see Ethan in season 5. I feel like I'm so expected to him, like, I'm so used to him doing one guest star appearance per season that I was, like, genuinely expecting him to show up, and he kind of didn't. So I would say that I definitely want to be able to see Ethan in season 6. I don't know. A part of me even thought, would it be interesting if he went down a little bit of a big bad territory of, like, maybe they didn't show us to him in season 5 so that he could really be the big bad of season 6 to, like, make us forget about him, only for him to come back, like, super strong. And I don't know if I feel Ethan as a big bad, but I do know that I want to see him again. His dynamic with Giles is so interesting. He is so interesting. He's always stirring shit up and making like the funniest episodes. So I would love to see Ethan again. And I think we also are going to have to talk about the whole idea of Buffy giving up on being a Slayer. I wonder how she's going to feel about that after, you know, God, I hate how many times I've had to say that Buffy's dead this fucking video. I hate it. But you know, when she comes back, I wonder how she's gonna feel about it. Because I know that she said if Dawn dies, she's done. Well, she died. And in some ways, I feel like that's, well, for her, it's not as bad. For me, it is probably worse. I just wonder if she's going to have those similar feelings of wanting to give up. Because I think this is something that we have spoken about. And I wonder if she's going to feel like she's matured past slaying and like doesn't want to do it anymore. Because I know that she was saying that it was like affecting her. Like she didn't feel like she was doing the right things, if that makes sense. So I think that this is a storyline that would be super interesting, and I think it would tie in perfectly to us talking about the spirit of the first Slayer like we had been, if that is the season 6 storyline, which I am kind of hoping it is. Because listen, Restless has got to pay off. So I think if there was one thing that I would like probably think, see, everything would make sense, because then we would get a new Slayer, and then we could bring back Faith, and then we bring back Buffy, and we get the 3 of them as a way to explore what is it to be a Slayer. And then we also have the Watchers Council involvement and like giving us some answers. I think that would probably have to be like my strongest prediction in regards to like season 6. You know, that maybe it is going to be an exploration of what it's like to be a Slayer. The main theme that I thought was the theme of season 5 might actually be the one for season 6. So yeah, I think those were pretty much a summary of my thoughts on season 5. I apologize for how long this was. I feel like I actually do these videos more for me than I do it for you guys. I like being able to have a record of all my feelings sort of like as I'm going through the show. It's actually really interesting for me because like I said, this has become one of my favorite shows. So it's also interesting for me to see how my opinions are changing and shifting. You know, even though these videos give me so much anxiety and it takes so much time that I genuinely thought about like not doing it, I was like, you know what? I kind of just really want to. So to anybody who listened to even a minute of this, thank you so much. I hope you had fun. I know I did. And I'm excited to just go into season 6. You know, it feels like big things are coming. It feels like we've made a switch where Buffy just feels so compelling and exciting. And like, I mean, it's always felt that way, but like season 5 just brought out so much inside of me that I'm really excited to see how season 6 is going to follow that up. And I'm really excited to see you guys then. So I will see you all very, very soon for 601. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you stay safe. Hope you get some hugs, and hope everybody has some Kit Kats to eat to get them through what I'm sure is going to be a sad season. So I will see you all in 601. Big hugs.